arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations that have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham Estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, shall we say, interest by the police in what are very, very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey Epstein for Jeffrey Epstein's financial gain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. What is it? A couple of minutes past 6. It's Friday morning and we're live across the United Kingdom. Yes, you lucky people. It's Jeremy Kyle till 10 o'clock on the home of Common Sense. And basically, very simply this, the radio station, the TV station where you can give us your view on the day's news as ever. Christian, he's never on holiday, this man. 0344 499 1000. You can. Who's going to get your first voice note in on a Friday? I've got a prize. You can have a banana. That's all I've got. 0344... Easy, Charlie. 0344 499 1000. You can text the show. Tommy's taking your calls. Texts are coming in. 87222. No Dave Doubledecks. We've got the main man himself. The Charlton fan Sam is in the seat. Neha's here. And we're going to do it straight away as it's a Friday because there's so much to do. This man was in Sunderland at 10:30 last night. This man is so loyal to me because I created him. Very good morning, Charlie Rowley.
Good morning, Jeremy Kyle.
You look really... You look... Mate, I thought I looked knackered. You look great.
Well, that's the makeup department for you.
You look very good.
But thank you very much. No, it was a long journey through the night, but I slept through the night. And
you got to the point now where you sleep on the way down from Sunderland?
Yes, I'm not as young as I once was. You know,
there is always a private jet.
No? I don't think they could afford that, but the bus was fun.
You were on the fun bus
for an hour or two.
Good. Can I just say to all of you alarm clock Brits, welcome to the show. There is so much to talk about, but I refuse, I'm afraid, and I'm going to just stick my head above the parapet right now to let go of this fantastic mobile phone story. Everybody in the world now knows the Morgan McSweeney phone saga. If you are or have been on another planet, and seemingly, by the way, taxi drivers across London haven't, because I was at the front of the building talking to our Jen yesterday, and a bloke shouted out one of the cabbies, Jezza, we're all looking for them in our cabs. It's not in ours. And then another one shouted out, Belgrave Street. Is that in Tower Hamlets or Mayfair, Jezza? No idea. You must have been following this story. I mean,
yes.
First of all, Mandelson gets the job as UK ambassador to America, suggested by Morgan McSweeney, the then chief of staff, vetted by Morgan McSweeney. It's a disaster. Starmer sacks him. Ferrari. Mandelson gets sacked. But the interesting thing is, as the investigation is opened, 3 days before Morgan McSweeney, the then Chief of Staff, loses his phone. But the story and the plot thickens because Morgan phoned the police. The whole thing, transcript was in the papers yesterday. He gave the wrong location to the police. The wrong location. It could have been, apparently it was called Belgrave Street, not in Belgrave, here in Tower Hamlets. it was his work phone that was stolen. He had one in one hand and one in the other. One was the personal phone, which had a tracker on. But the work one, which had all the government information on, that got nicked. That didn't have a tracker on. All the WhatsApp messages have been deleted. So lots of people running around yesterday going, this doesn't make any sense. Cammy Badenoch said the story of McSweeney's stolen phone doesn't add up. Our friend Dan Hodges and most of the Daily Mail journalists are smelling blood, and quite rightly. But overnight, check this gets worse. Turns out that Peter Mandelson, right, on being sacked from one of the most prestigious diplomatic jobs in the world, he wasn't asked to hand over his phone messages as McSweeney was, when he lost his job. So we've been saying all week, if McSweeney sent WhatsApp messages to Mandelson and has had his phone nicked, why don't you get Mandelson's phone? He wasn't asked for it. Charlie Rowley, I love the bones of you. This is the biggest cover-up in the world, man, isn't it?
The curious case of Morgan McSweeney's tweets, or texts, rather.
Texts?
You're absolutely right. Look, but for me, what is so obviously frustrating, but also just... you've got to laugh, I suppose. Look, we saw an exchange of text messages that came out during the COVID inquiry between special advisors and senior politicians, where there were awful text messages about COVID, joking about it. And since then, every single text message, in terms of government communications between advisors to senior politicians, to senior civil servants, all of that is government property. It should always be backed up since COVID.
But it's not even a case.
Years ago.
I don't mean to jump in. It isn't a case of being backed up. Andrew Griffiths was on the show yesterday. He was a government minister. Sarah Vine was on talking about Michael and when their son's phone was nicked, and she said, you'd go. I'm the second most important person in England, by the way. There's some sensitive stuff on them, but he didn't say that at all.
Well, he didn't even say that he was the chief of staff to the Prime Minister.
Dodgy
you're
as hell.
absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. But why wouldn't you say that? Because no one would accuse you of saying, don't you know who I am? No one would think it's in that way. You are a senior person. You are the chief of staff to the Prime Minister. Clearly, you've got important contacts, documents, information on that phone. You would say, "Oh gosh, this is terribly embarrassing. I'm actually the chief of staff to the Prime Minister. That's why it's really important, please." I know you've got thousands of other phone thefts that you've got to deal with in Sadik Khan's London, but this one might just be a little bit more important. You're not throwing your weight around by saying.
But that was the point of Sarah Vine yesterday. She said that when she was married to Michael Gove, their son William was attacked by knife point. She said it on the show yesterday, his phone was nicked, and she had to get on the phone and say, look, I'm not trying to be anything other than honest. His father is Michael Gove. There could be messages. The police came around. The whole thing smacks of a cover-up. Interestingly as well, on front of page of the Time, Mandelson not asked for messages from personal phone. So he gets arrested, Lord Mandelson. He's under investigation, but nobody thought to check his phone. So that'll be the next thing. But what was really interesting, and I know people are going, why you keep going? Because it's absolutely at the root cause of what is wrong with this government. I saw him in Helsinki doing that clip saying, this is a bit far-fetched. Said, no, it's not far-fetched, mate. Dan Hodges came on and he said, we know from an inside source that at the time that before the phone was lost, they spent a month thinking, oh my God, they're going to ask for those messages. He said that. Officials have told them that. It was all over the Mail yesterday. It's just extraordinary for me that this government thinks, right, that we are going to swallow this. And a lot of people might say to me, why are you going back? Because it's the only story in town. You are barefaced lying, in my opinion. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. Look, if you complain against this Prime Minister for riots that take place that might be sparked by, other events. You're called far right.
Yes.
But if you're then trying to, say to the Prime Minister, hold on, you made an appointment that was clearly wrong. You appointed a friend or someone that didn't go through a correct vetting process who had a continued relationship with a convicted paedophile. If you want to challenge that or scrutinise that, you're called far-fetched.
Yes.
When you can't get to the bottom of it.
Let's talk about our Prime Minister, because have we got any sad music, or are we not allowed to play any sad? Da-na-na-na. Could we reenact, our tune while I just build up? No, seriously, let's just give him a minute on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show on the Home of Common Sense, because in my experience, peeps, right, having been on telly and radio for a long time, if you're in the public eye, when you mess up, just tell me when you're ready with the sad music, when you mess up, there's a thing called a mea culpa. If a paper finds a story about you, you do an interview, you look a bit teary-eyed, and let's get some sad music, because just lower the sounds like the funeral, could be. and you do your mea culpa and you say, I'm sorry, I made these mistakes and I'm a changed human being. I'd like to point out at this point that Beth Rigby at Sky is... I love Beth Rigby, I think she's great, but have you heard about the interview she did with the Prime Minister yesterday? Because he sat there, a bit watery-eyed, it's the most natural he's ever been, and he said, I beat myself up every day when I realised that I appointed Peter Mandelson, and I've spent my life as a human rights lawyer protecting young women. And there was a sort of misty cloudiness to his eyes, and Beth Rigby said, I've never seen him look so genuine. No apology then to the kids that were raped by grooming gangs in Rochdale. No apology, you can cut the music. No apology to the pensioners whose houses were freezing this winter. No apology to the lies you told the farming community or the waspy women. Again, this man must think we're stupid. All of a sudden, what? I'm sorry. No, you're not sorry. You've U-turned, you've lied, you're out of your depth and you should go. I thought it was the most cynical pile of crap I've seen for a long time, and that's me being completely honest.
And I don't think anyone could put it better. You know, this is the man that, you know, told the whole country that he was the director of public prosecutions. Absolutely. He was the man, the most senior lawyer of the country that was going to do away with the politics of the past, of the chopping and changing of prime ministers under the Tory government, the Sleason scandal that took place there. He was going to be different, and yet he has been front and centre of a scandal of his own making, but passing the buck time and time again, not taking responsibility, not apologising to all of the communities
until
and all the people.
Until it suits. Let's play it then. Alarm clock Brits. This is Keir Starmer as you've never seen him before.
Nobody has been harder on me in relation to the mistake I made there than me. And I'll tell you for why. I've spent years trying to deal with violence against women and girls. And as I look back at it now, and the mistake I make, I've been really hard on myself. In the immediate days after this all came out, I was particularly hard on myself. So, yeah, everybody else was criticising, I guess all that, but nobody was criticising me more than myself. And I hate the fact I made that mistake, and I dwell on it. I beat myself up about it. It's certainly not a mistake I'd ever repeat, but there's no criticism anybody else can level at me that will be as harsh as the criticism I've dished out for myself.
There's nobody that could be as hard on you as yourself. Yes, there is, mate. You're looking and listening to him. Have you ever been hard on yourself? You kept saying I've been hard on myself.
Well, you know...
Ever beaten yourself up? Been hard on yourself?
If he'd actually sort of recognised earlier on, then he wouldn't be in the situation that
I'm trying to make Charlie really laugh on a Friday, and he's being absolutely dead straight. Have you ever been hard on yourself?
I'm blushing under this... That is...
Wait,
no, but
what?
That is, for people listening to that is so disingenuous.
Absolutely.
Because if I were Beth Rigby, and, you know, I think anyone actually should have just asked the next question. Okay, you talked about violence against women and girls. What about the grooming gang inquiry?
I do. I love Beth, but she missed a trick. Can I say good morning to Andy? Morning, Andy.
Morning, Jezza. It's Andy from Hull, getting in early today. Just heard the 6 o'clock news that Keir Starmer's beating himself up about appointing Peter Mandelson. Well, get to the back of the queue, son. I'm sure that's a job you can outsource. Have a good day, everybody. Keep your peckers up.
034441000, 6:15. It's the only story in town. We've got the stolen mobile phone, the dodgy story of Morgan McSweeney. Where is that phone? Cabbies across London, people across the United Kingdom are looking for this phone. He gave the wrong address to the police. You would do. He didn't mention he was the chief of staff. Why would you bother? It's absolutely unbelievable. Now we discover that Peter Mandelson, his phone wasn't even asked for. God knows what's on that, but Keir Starmer, understanding the depth of misery that British people feel and how sad they are at the mistakes he's made, says that no criticism in the world could ever match the level of criticism I've given. I've beaten myself. I'm very hard on myself. Have you ever been very hard on yourself, Charlie?
Well, only at the weekend. I reflect on the week, and that might be where I'm just sort of more thoughtful.
We might as well, if we're talking about mobile phones and, of course, Keir Starmer, we might as well go all in. Have you ever... No, just please, please, this is losing its rag already, this. We might as well go straight in with Trump. The Donald, who... And I think I might say something a little bit contentious here. There's nothing about Keir Starmer that I admire or respect. But he might have been right about not going into war straight away with Trump, because we are seeing, I mean, he's about as consistent as chocolate, but he did it again overnight. He basically said, he described the two main aircraft carriers that we've got as toys. Have a listen. This is the Donald.
The UK say that we'll send, this is 3 weeks ago, we'll send our aircraft carriers, which aren't the best aircraft carriers, by the way. They're toys compared to what we have. But we'll send our aircraft carrier when the war is over. I said, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Don't bother. We don't need it. And we don't need it, and we don't need them.
I mean, that is damning, whether you agree with the Orange Man baby or not. The truth of the matter is that is pretty damning. Two toys. I mean, it does rather sum up the view of our armed forces and the equipment we've got, doesn't it? Oh, come on, man.
I'm not sure about
HMS Dragon, your feet, took 3 weeks to get to Cyprus. A landlocked country called Luxembourg got a ship there. A landlocked country or an island.
And I think that was down to the Prime Minister not deploying it quickly enough, I don't think. Donald Trump, he doesn't like to be told no, and the Prime Minister said no to using our RAF bases for US aircraft. I think that was a mistake. And now
I think it might not have been a mistake to not join, but it was certainly a mistake to not allow them to use the bases straight up. But
Definitely.
That's the dither of Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Sam's giving me a weird look. I would have thought the way you deal with Donald Trump is to stand up to him, and even if you disagree with him, if you stuck to your thing, I think he'd respect you more than flip-flopping the whole time.
Oh, totally. And that's why I think there's more respect between probably the President of the United States and the President of France, actually. I know they have this sort of backslapping.
What is wrong with me today? It's Friday.
They have this backslapping, handshaking sort of nonsense where it goes on to sort of, emasculate each other.
Do you think they're hard on each other?
I think they grip each other very strongly when they have that handshake, and it's that sort of image of who is the strong. But he's obviously lashing out. Look, the UK said no to Donald Trump. He didn't like that, and now he's going to try and belittle our aircraft carriers, which I don't think are toys. I wish they were deployed earlier. I think they should have been deployed a lot quicker when we knew that there was actually going to be a war in the Middle East, whether we're involved or not. You have to plan for the contingencies. This government didn't do that. It completely failed to do that, which is why we're now lagging behind. That's why we're now getting the kind of abuse that we'd probably get from this particular president. But you're right. Let's stand up to him and say, Donald, right, we disagreed about that. Yeah. But don't talk us down. No. We can still help you if you want us to, because you're asking, on the one hand, one day you're asking NATO to help, the next day you're sort of, doing us down. You've got to be a bit more consistent, Donald, if you don't mind me saying, and we'll help where we can. And that's the end of the conversation.
I couldn't agree more. The special relationship, of course, in everybody's mind is what happens now between two men who patently don't get on. I would suggest that the special relationship goes beyond two presidents. This is Trump saying, I'm not sure we'll be there again for the UK. This is great.
We're always going to be there, or at least we were. I don't know about anymore, to be honest with you. I have to be honest. We were always there when they needed help. We always would have been there when they needed help. I mean, think of it. We're there to protect Europe from Russia. In theory, it doesn't affect us. We have an ocean, big, fat, beautiful ocean. But we're there to protect NATO, to protect them from Russia. But they're not there to protect us. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense.
That is actually quite important in my... But it's just big fat ocean. We've got a big fat ocean. So listen, at 6:20, if you're waking up this morning, you're waking up to the phone saga. Morgan McSweeney, I'll give out the wrong address. I can't find my phone. The whole thing's as fishy as anything. Mandelson's phone. Donald Trump says our aircraft carriers are toys and the special relationships in the toilet. But Keir Starmer, there are so many people responding to this. He did an interview with Beth Rigby. It's a podcast that Sky do. I like Beth, but I think she should have followed it up. She basically said, do you feel bad about the Mandelson thing? And we had sort of little teary eyes, and nobody is harder on themselves than I am. Crocodile tears from a deluded professional liar. What a loathsome, phony apologist he is, says Bill in Cheshire. Steve is, morning Charlie, morning Jezza. The interview. What a Prince Andrew moment. The only reason he's sorry is because he's caught out. Sorry, my arse. It's time for this liar to go. This is brilliant. Robert Morris. Keir Starmer is beating himself up with Mandelson. I know he's a very busy man, so I'm very happy to give him a hand to beat him up if anybody wants. Lots of people saying that. Jane, good morning. Look out for women and girls. What? He's got some nerve, that bloke. He's a national disgrace. He's saying that now because it suits him. Dan's in Halifax. Starmer is only beating himself up because he's been caught and sussed. He's running a complete lie fest of a government. It's embarrassing. Internationally and domestically, we're done. Morning, Jess, says Mark in Croydon. Two-tier Keir doesn't need to beat himself up. Think there are a few pensioners, farmers, and generally most of us who do a bloody better job than he can do himself. Michael says that interview with Sky... Help me out. That reminded me of the Andrews interview. It will be the same result. The man is on the way down. I mean, it's extraordinary response. Michael, Starmer and McSweeney could quite easily clear up the questions regarding the stolen phone by simply submitting to a brand new lie detector test, Jez. Moving on. Morning, Jez and Chaz. Do you think that's the future?
Oh, yes.
Live from Bridlington for 1 week only, Jez and Chaz in... Babes in the Wood. Maybe we could do Panto.
Oh, no, we couldn't.
Well done. No, not like that. Nathan's in Path in Scotland, and this is for the amazing Sam who pushes the button. Did I hear you say a Charlton fan? Wow! There's two. I've been one for 50 years. Red Army. Nathan in Perth, the Red Army. So there are two. And finally, Sean in Gloucester, good morning. The stolen phone scenario is just the latest in the line of long, bare-faced lies. Too little, too late, that interview before we go to the break, isn't it? That's too little, too late.
It absolutely is. And all of those text messages and callers are absolutely spot on. But the one thing that people will always say, as they still do, even if this Prime Minister can't even, get a grip of a particular situation like this, get rid of him and it would be a whole lot worse.
It's not a reason to keep hold of him, though. It's not a reason to keep hold of him. My dream is that he goes, they bring in somebody who's completely and utterly mad, and the authorities, the system does what it did to Liz Truss, because I don't think as a country we can carry on. Morning, Lee.
Morning, Jeremy. Lee from Manchester. Bit more awake today, so a bit perkier. Yeah, this mobile phone business. So you're telling me that this government-issued mobile phone didn't have every counter measurement installed on it? So IMEI tracking or any other MI6 tomfoolery that could have happened to it. Sorry, not buying it. Have a good day and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, welcome back. 6:25. This is Jeremy Kyle on Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense and the home of alarm clock. Brit, a very good morning. What is it? Friday the 27th. The weekend is nigh, and Charlie Rowley is with me on the day that, what are you waking up to? The continuing saga of Morgan McSweeney's phone, the one that mysteriously went missing. Rather conveniently, just as an investigation was launched. It turns out tracker wasn't on, messages have all disappeared. This morning and overnight, I liked it yesterday when the cabinet went, we've managed to find some of them. Really? What, the ones that you conveniently want to put out? This morning we discovered that Mandelson's not been asked to hand over his phone. Well, I think that'll be happening pretty quickly. Badenoch's on it. Everybody's up in arms. It's annoying people. But the main news story of the day, my friends, is Keir Starmer, who last night did a Prince Andrew-type interview for a podcast on Sky with Beth Rigby. And he said that he beats himself up and he's hard on himself and he realises what a terrible mistake he's made. And he said nobody's harder on him than himself. Good morning, says Pedro. And he said, Bill, actually. He says, I'm part of Alarm Clock Britain, and I hope you don't mind me asking, but my wife keeps telling me I'm too hard, and I've no idea what she means.
Well, maybe a further conversation needs to take place during the course of the day.
Jenny lives in Worcester. My son lives and works on the QE, and I had the privilege of looking around it, and it's no toy. It's incredibly impressive. I'm usually a fan of Trump's, but he's talking utter crap about our defence systems. Yeah, I understand that. It is disrespectful, but it's certainly... I'm going to say something some people will disagree with. When he came to power and he had a go at NATO, he was absolutely right. He was right that we should pay more. He's actually right that we should... improve our defences. There are more people coming to this country than we've got in our armed forces, but the way he does it sometime, I think, is unacceptable. Brian's in Worthing. Morning, Jez and Charlie. The truth is, politicians think they are so clever. We, the public, know they're completely bloody stupid. Surely, says Pete, not handing in equipment after leaving a job voids you leaving, isn't it in terms and conditions that you'd have to give your phone back or you'd stop getting the benefits? Betty, one of the toys Trump is talking about is sitting on bricks for months in Rosyth. Simple fact is Labour cut all the operational funding to pay the NI increase and all the fat pensions MOD civil servants. I didn't know that. Did you know about that?
No.
Good morning, Jez. I don't want to be outrageous as Alex, but it's a shame that the Thames is tidal because otherwise we could drag it, get all the water out and see if we could find Morgan McSweeney's phone. And bearing in mind, as I told you at the top of the show, that a cabbie shouted out yesterday, it's not in my phone. Let's just put out a nationwide appeal, 87... what is it? Oh, yeah, 87222. If you believe that you might know where Morgan McSweeney's phone is, in your cab, in your garage, think only fools and horses. It's got to be somewhere, hasn't it? Well, Morgan McSweeney's house? I don't know where Morgan McSweeney lives, but has anybody seen it? We're on the lookout for a mobile phone. It won't have a government tracker and it'll have absolutely nothing on it, but it was lost somewhere in Belgrave. Where is Belgrave Street?
Pimlico.
Well, why has he said Tower Hamlets?
Well,
it might turn up in Manchester. Nobody knows.
But if you are the mugger, so if you are the mugger, the person that allegedly stole his phone, and I think that these are disgraceful crimes anyway, because thousands of people use their phone every day, and this is Sadik Khan's London.
Do you believe it was stolen?
However,
do you believe it was stolen?
I can believe it was stolen because so many phones get stolen in London under Sadik Khan's London. But you could maybe repent, and the public might slightly forgive you and look better on you if you are the mugger to come forward and hand that phone back. because of all the messages.
An amnesty for the mugger. If you're listening, mugger, I'll offer you an amnesty.
Yeah.
Because it will mean that we can put more pressure on the government. Tony says, why hasn't anyone looked at the cell site records that cover the area where the supposed theft of the phone took place? At least they were able to tell if the two phones were together at the same location. Also, central London is covered with CCTV cameras. Surely the theft would have been said. I'm of the mindset that it's quite... I mean, it's only a 50% chance, but it's quite convenient they nicked the work one and not the other one that was in the other pocket that was the personal one that had a tracker on which case all the messages... It is quite dodgy. But anyway, there we go. Morning, Andrew.
Morning, Jezza. When Starmer was questioned about McSweeney's alleged phone theft, he somehow managed to blame the previous government, like he does every day to every single question, no matter what the topic. You just know if somebody tried to steal his phone, he wouldn't fear for his life. His response would be, this breaches section 2.8.3 of international law, like the complete robot he is. Smash the gangs, he couldn't smash a window with a brick. As for Reeves, she claimed before the previous budget that she was going to raise minimum wage to help with the effects of inflation. This is a woman that is supposed to be in charge of our economy, and she doesn't understand school economics. This government is so disconnected from the people it is supposed to serve. Starmer needs to give everyone what we all want and walk away. I'll even pay for his one-way ticket to Davos, where he clearly wants to be, so he can hate Britain from afar. Andrew from Riyadh.
Riyadh? I thought you were from the toilet. I love the fact he's in Riyadh, because he's had enough. Did he not sound to you like he was in the toilet?
There was a slight echo there, yes.
Well, fair play, he's in Riyadh. He's in Chris Butler what does this mean? Chris Butler in Wallasey. Am I reading this? Can you start giving bumper stickers out? I'm part of Alarm Clock Britain. I'm a worker, not a shirker. Really? Have you been hard on yourself? Let's shame the feckless and lazy into work because the useless government get them off their backsides. Thanks, mate. That's Chris Butler in Wallasey. Morning to Karen in Newcastle. Why, Jez? You couldn't meet this up, man, with this McSweeney mobile going missing. How comes they have some of the messages but not all? They've probably gone through the messages to pick the decent ones and got rid of the corrupt messages. Why, he's lying to the public.
Well...
That was really impressive, wasn't it?
Yes, that was a far cry from Riyadh, but Newcastle.
Margaret's in Birmingham. Morning, Charlie. Morning, Jizza. The poor me speech will two-tier. Who cares if you want the sympathy voucher? You can sod off. I think I genuinely, whoever, I mean, you were a special advisor for a minute, whoever said it would be a good idea to go and look misty-eyed and apologise. Too little, too late, in my humble opinion.
Totally. Look, you know, the Prime Minister's apologised. He said he got the decision wrong. What he should now be doing is trying to move on, but also saying, look, you know, accepting he made the mistake, nothing's going to change that, right?
But he's made so many.
But he's made so many. But
and this apology, I think, is to save skin, not to admit that he's made a mistake. Apologise to the pensioners. Apologise to the farming community. Apologise to every person who's been affected by your decisions. It's too cynical to me.
Yeah, it is. But he should also, I think, try and balance the idea of, right, he appointed Peter Mandelson, that was clearly the wrong decision, but then he sacked Peter Mandelson, and he can be up in arms like everyone else about that appointment and how he got it wrong and what subsequently we learned afterwards. But he he's doing this sort of heartfelt, pull the strings, you know, I'm the victim approach, which he is not the victim.
No, he's not.
And, you know, as we said before, you know, the victims in this country are the women and the girls that have been raped, that have been attacked. Absolutely. And he wouldn't even set up a national inquiry when he had the chance about grooming gangs.
I'm so with you, and I do it the whole time, and I missed a trick. You're absolutely right. The Beth Rigby should have said, you're showing remorse to the victims of Epstein and Mandelson, and you what about the victims in Rochdale, in the north, of the grooming? You're absolutely spot on. Morning, Matt.
Morning, Jezza. Matt in a wet, windy Warrington. So Keir Starmer said on Sky News last night, or on a podcast, that he's beat himself up over Mandelson employing him. No, he hasn't beat himself up, has he, heck? Absolute toffle. And he spent his life protecting women and children, and he's let Mandelson sneak through. Well, what's he done about the rape gangs? What a hypocrite. Also, BBC, nothing on BBC about Morgan Sweeney's phone, so it should be changed to LBC, the Labour Broadcasting. It's an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. I hope this brings the government down now. Certainly it's got to bring Starmer down. It's so corrupt. I hope they find something on CCTV. That's what's going to be next. Anyway, have a great weekend. Cheers, Jezza.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, it's a great Friday morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. It's the home of common sense and it's the home of the alarm clock. Britain Charlie Rowley has hot-footed it from Sunderland from a gig that we can't talk about. And he's been on a bus all night, but he's here reviewing the papers. Everybody wants to have a dig at Starmer. I mean, should we replay the interview? Do you think that would be nice? Just, can I ask you for a bit of sympathy, alarm clock Brit? Keir Starmer knows that he made a mistake and he's come clean. Think Newsnight and Prince Andrew. Think Woking Pizza Express. Have a listen, have a watch.
Nobody has been harder on me in relation to the mistake I made there than me. And I'll tell you for why. I've spent years trying to deal with violence against women and girls. And as I look back at it now and the mistake I made, I've been really hard on myself. In the immediate days after this all came out, I was particularly hard on myself. So, yeah, everybody else was criticising, I guess all that, but nobody was criticising me more than myself. And I hate the fact I made that mistake, and I dwell on it. I beat myself up about it. It's certainly not a mistake I'd ever repeat, but there's no criticism anybody else can level at me that will be as harsh as the criticism I've dished out for myself.
Surely the point is you're being hard on yourself because you know you were lying and you knew how close Mandelson was to Epstein. Surely, actually, if you didn't know, then it would be a different case. The reason he is doing that is because he knows he's banged to rights. Morning, Matt.
Morning, Jeremy and Mr. Rowley. Matt in Hove here. So, does this government really expect the British public to swallow this load of old trollop that Morgan McSweeney, the little turnip, loses his mobile phone that's unlocked, doesn't really tell anyone in Downing Street, no one really does anything, he gets handed a new iPhone, and when he logs into WhatsApp, he uses the same number and there are no messages, there are none of his old chats there, none of his contacts, and he just starts afresh. Do they really expect us to believe that?
Yeah, they do, and that's the point. It's unbelievable. 20 to 7. Let's look at some other news, but you all you want to talk about. 0344 499 1000. Busy morning, Jess, says Paul, as I'm completing my application for head of IT security, MI6, MI5 and GCHQ, as it seems I've installed better security on my teenage daughter's phone than they install on government devices, says Paul in Luton. Alex in Cardiff, I believe the special relationship will be back on track if Farage gets in because he actually cares about Britain and will not be destroying it like Starmer. Tony's in Sussex. It's all over the UK. People are making it talk breakfast. Thank you for that. Morning, Jez and the lovely Charlie, or as I would like to call you, if I may, the new hinge and bracket.
Oh.
Oh. Oh.
Well, there we go.
Well, anyway.
I've been called worse.
So have I, love. Anyway, Surely Starmer will go after, hopefully, the disastrous election. You're right, Hinge. You're definitely the... Hinge, aren't you? I know you said the wrong word. 03... What? He's called Hinge. He's fine. 034441000. Can I just change tack? Because this is fantastic news. And later on, we've got a lady who has just been talking about this forever and ever and ever, Sharon Davis. Page 11 of The Sun, Olympics in trans ban for athletes. Transgender athletes have been banned from women's sports at the next Olympic Games in a bid to make it fairer and better. Is that not something we should be celebrating?
Totally. It is common sense, and it's absolutely the right decision. I don't know how we ever got into the position where we were trying to say, OK, yes, you can, if you identify as a woman, but you've biologically been born as a man, where you have different genes, yes, which obviously can make you stronger. You have a competitive advantage. All of that should never have got to the situation that we're in. And it's just I think, a reset, and most people will be waking up reading that story thinking, oh, yeah, that's
But it's right common sense. It's what you said, isn't it? I mean, we sit here and we do this every day. Chris and I read this morning. You go, yeah, that's absolutely spot on right. So fantastic about that. And Sharon Davis on the show later on. She's been an absolute advocate. The grief that she has got online is absolutely extraordinary. More to talk about, including Dave Polanski. He's on. And also, this is my favourite story of the morning in The Sun. We'll talk about it in a minute. Liar, liar on a zip wire. This is a woman who got £23,000 in benefits, saying she couldn't wash or cook herself. She managed to sneak 23 grand out of the benefit system, get manicures, training sessions, a private dentist in Highley Street, and she was caught ziplining on an action-packed holiday. So if you are off to work today, don't worry about it. Just sign on and go zip wiring. Let's cross to Hollywood. It's the final time of the week, which makes me sad. But Charlie Rowley, we love this woman. A very good morning, Kinsey Schofield.
I was Googling hard-on jokes, but you caught me in the middle of it, and I don't have a good one for you. I'm sorry.
Brilliant. OK, this show's disappearing. Hinge and Bracket. Have you ever heard of Hinge and Bracket?
No.
There are a couple of old dears from about the 70s or 80s. We'll get a picture and put it up. Charlie Rowley and I have been called the new Hinge and Bracket.
I think it must be a compliment because you two are a delight.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's very nice.
Well, I'll take that all day to the bank.
It's completely and utterly wrong. Let's move on. Kins, good morning. We had a Prince Andrew moment overnight. We had Keir Starmer doing a tearful interview saying, I've done wrong and nobody is harder on myself than me. I'm always hard on myself, which everybody's just taken with a pinch of salt. Some great stories that you want to cover. She sent this to us this morning. Meghan Markle, once the Duchess of Sussex, once a woman who would go on royal tours, whose star has very much descended since she took to Montecito, is now, in her mind, achieving great things, but in our mind can be laughed at. We've gone from making jam and trying to flog that to plotting, this is brilliant, a very raunchy acting career. Can you tell, she joining OnlyFans, Kins?
No. This is a report, and basically, you might have asked me about this recently, about Meghan Markle returning to acting, and I think I said, oh, no. I mean, she's going to do this new Amazon movie with Jack Quaid. She's making a cameo, but for the most part, I thought she would consider herself well above that until I read Tom Bower's Betrayal, front to back. And there are reports circulating here in the States, one source telling an outlet, there's talk that Meghan's actively considering a return to acting that leads into more daring, even raunchy scenes, because she feels she has nothing else to try at this stage. The sense is that she needs something that will cut through and reestablish her presence in a crowded industry. And I'll tell you how...
with respect, to cut through in a crowded industry if you haven't got any talent, I'm being completely straight, she's going to take her clothes off? Nudity? Is that what we're talking about?
I think that it's fair to assume that based on the term raunchy.
Can you imagine the Duchess of Sussex in a movie with the boobs out? It's fantastic.
Well, first of all, you and I covered her twerking baby video. Remember how we did not believe that was real. We thought we were looking at AI. I mean, we've seen this, but let me tell you why after reading Bauer's book, I'm convinced that this could be true. I think Meghan would consider roles that push boundaries, not just to reclaim relevance, but possibly to humiliate Harry, chip away at his masculinity and assert her dominance. You know, she's walking a fine line, I think, here with her career comeback, but provocative acting, it might be the tool she uses to reclaim the spotlight, but also I think it complicates Harry's way back into the royal fold. And I think she has proven in the past that she's willing to be savage. I think she's willing to try to jeopardize his relationship with his family.
It's really interesting, and I sort of flippantly said this in the past about how we'd go on golf trips, you two, and in the old days, like 10 years ago, with my mates to Florida, and at the end of playing golf, before we went out for dinner, you'd put on the telly, and Deal or No Deal with Harvey Mantel, she was box 23 in a boob tube. It's not made up. Every day, Meghan Markle was box 23. And you sort of see the circle of life. And you wouldn't, if you were anybody in this country, I suspect, except for a strange few, you wouldn't doubt the fact that this woman so craves the spotlight and so seemingly has in her headkins that she can turn public opinion back in her favour impossible. You can see her doing anything, whether it's to humiliate him or because she can't bear not being in the public eye, but you wouldn't put it past her. Can you imagine a scenario where a past member or a member of the royal family by association is in a sort of semi-blue movie, to sound like my father? Extraordinary. Would anybody go and watch it? Charlie?
Well, first of all, sorry.
Would you bracket Hinge? Would you go and Hinge? Would you go and watch Meghan Markle?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't waste a dime in American sense to go to the movies and watch what she has to offer. And you know, look, most people, if they want to be in the spotlight, you know, the big iconic celebrities I can think of, Cher, Madonna, you know, they're just one name. That is their name. But she still wants to cling on to the Duchess of Sussex. She has to use this as a position of, because she is not just Meghan. If she was such a superstar, if she was so heralded, she would just be Meghan, because Meghan is great and Meghan is great. But
work for me, Jezza.
Exactly.
Just a joke.
Exactly.
Paula in Bexhill said, Meghan Markle going back to acting. Respectfully, I don't think she ever left. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Kin's amazing. We're going to have to follow that. You can't. You're so good. Sarah Ferguson. A lot of people saying that she is, a disaster waiting to happen. There will be investigations. Nobody's seen her. She must have. I read an article at the weekend. She must have good friends because she hasn't been seen. Somebody must be forgiving her. She's been stripped of the freedom of the city of York. About time too. Are they left with any titles?
Well, I have heard that there are rumors that she is with Priscilla Presley, her friend, Priscilla Presley, Fergie. Like that
Fergie's with Priscilla Presley.
I've heard that Fergie's like her sanctuary right now is Priscilla Presley. So I don't, that is rumor. But yeah, I mean,
can I show you something that will make you laugh? Do you know what I did this morning? I put on my blue suede shoes. Anyway, sorry about that.
That's so sweet. I love a good Elvis reference. Absolutely. But no, I mean, they're completely humiliated. And what titles does she have left? Grifter, grandmother, mum, I guess.
Dear me. Actually, there was a US lawmaker, this story emanated from your side of the pond yesterday, who made a direct plea to Sarah Ferguson to testify over her close Epstein ties. We know that Andrew won't testify. There's no way she will at all. This is a serious question. Is there anything legally, any pressure that the authorities in America can put on these two to testify or not?
I don't think so. And what annoys me about this is, like, can we clean up our own back porch first? The UK is the only one that's had the cojones to arrest anybody over this chaos. So why don't we focus on what's going on stateside instead of trying to get a camera in our face and trying to earn some headlines for ourselves to platform ourselves by going after former members of the British royal family. Like, nobody over here is getting into any real trouble. It's a little awkward, I'm sure, for Bill Clinton in aisle 5 at the grocery store. And I'm not saying he's done anything, but there are some very big names that are associated with the same individual that have yet to suffer any real consequences. And I think at some point, Conan O'Brien opened the Oscars with a joke about how at least the UK actually arrests people for being predators. We're not doing that over here in the United States. So, stop trying to attract attention on yourself by going after Fergie.
Are you talking to me?
No, I love you.
I'm joking. I love you too. It's sad for me, but there you go. It's the weekend, which means I won't see her. But thank you so much, Kins. You're amazing. Great story about Meghan Markle plotting a very raunchy returning to acting. Just keep an eye on that. I honestly, can you not see her ending up in a soft porn film? I genuinely can.
Kyle.
Well, what sort of soft porn would be a bit of nudity?
First of all, go look at the pilot episode of the new Beverly Hills 90210 and see what she's doing in the front seat of a car. She pops her head up in the first few minutes. She's already done some questionable stuff on TV, if you know what I mean.
This segment has been the best segment of the week. Christian's open-mouthed. We love you, Kinsey Schofield. Thank you very much indeed. 9 minutes to 7. Are we going to a break? We're not going to a break. Maybe we will. See you in 3.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, have taken that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to 5 to 7. We're live across the UK. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. You're in a spirited and funny mood this morning. They're a bit fruity, these people. Morning, Jez. I'm sorry, but concerning Starmer and being hard on himself, says Brian, his father was a toolmaker, wasn't he? Clayton in Dartford. Morning, you two. Jezza and Chazza. You two are more like Hinge and Unhinged, but I'm not saying who. It's a bit rude. But what about Steve? Morning, you two. Hinge and Brackett. Hardly two stunners, though, are you?
Steve's my dad's name.
Maybe your dad thinks...
That's the last time I'm getting him to text him.
Jez, question for you. Great piece of news today. Sharon Davis on later that you know, the Olympics announces a transgender ban in all women's sports. So if you're a bloke in a dress, you can't win. This is interesting. If you identify as a dog, should you be allowed to enter crufts? No, of course not. So why was a man ever allowed to take part in female... I'm really strong on this.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm chomping at the bit here to get him because, you know, we've talked about that Starmer interview earlier on about how he's so hard on himself about, you know, saying that he was the biggest advocate for women and girls. Not when it comes to women's rights, obviously.
Absolutely.
Not when it comes to the grooming gang scandal. Not when it comes to identifying what an actual woman is. He couldn't even say that, you know, he thinks that women can have a penis. You know, he wasn't strong for standing up for women's rights. He's never been strong on standing up for women's rights because he's pandered to the left. He's pandered to the campaign organisations who, I'm afraid, no one's saying that if you are transgender, you can't get into the pool, you can't do sports. But it's just common sense when it comes to
it's fundamentally unfair when a female athlete has trained for all her life for a stronger man. Don't get upset. To do it. Morning, Jez and Charlie. I hope Starmer put more effort into beating himself up than he did into punching that bag in the boxing gym, says Daryl in Blackburn. Morning to Sharon in Staffordshire, all across the UK. Good morning, Jez and Charlie. Starmer's interview with Beth Rigby. What a BS interview. He's not sorry one bit. Johanna in Salisbury. Good morning. Trump is playing a superb payback for the entire Labour cabinet insults because they didn't think he would be elected again. Trump waited his time. It's a total well put down. Can I just say something that's very important? We're not just huge, dear, in England. I mean, this morning we've had people on from Riyadh. This is very strange. We've now got a voice note from Dallas in Botswana. I thought Dallas was in Texas, but morning, Dallas.
Good morning, Jezza and Charlie. This is Dallas. I'm calling in from Botswana. Of course, Keir Starmer is beating himself up about the Mandelson affair and now this McSweeney phone gate scandal. It could cause him his job. That's what he's crying about. It's not for the ladies. It's not for anybody, for the girls he tried to protect, blah, 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 blah. It's because this could bring him down. And I'm surprised that Beth Rigby didn't mention it.
Well, very good, Dallas in Botswana. I've upset Sharon Miller. Meghan will not end up in a soft porn show. How dare you say that, Jess? She's a brilliant actress. It's a shocking, shocking comment. You should be disgraceful. She's going to be an Oscar winner. There's a great headline in the Sun. Well, not headline, page 7. 23 grand a year benefits fraudster caught on a 3-week zip-wiring adventure holiday manages to avoid jail. Liar on a zip wire. This is Catherine Wieland. I don't know if you see that, Wieland. I will tell you about the benefits sheet. She's a housebound with anxiety. I can't work. I'm terribly upset. Caught zip-wiring on an action-packed holiday in Mexico. 23 grand. This woman who said, I can't do anything. I'm riddled with anxiety. Please look after me, Britain. And we went, yes, here's money. What are you going to do with that money? I'm going to have manicures, tanning sessions. I'm going to see a private dentist. I'm going to get all sorts of stuff. And then I'm going on an action holiday. Sorry, I don't know why you're having a go at me. What is wrong with this country?
Well, exactly. And she visited over about, it says here, 60 pubs and clubs. You know, she's had countless beauty treatments, theme park visits. The rest of it, you know, it's ridiculous. 23 grand. And for anxiety, you know, mental health. So when we talk about that benefits bill ballooning, these are hard-working alarm clock Brits that are paying the bills of people that are using mental health as a distraction when it's actually people who are really suffering. But the people that are actually suffering do tend to go to work because they can find purpose and actually they find it working is better than claiming and just sitting at home. But in this case, she wasn't sitting at home at all. She was on a zip wire.
Well, we started this hour, the Friday paper review, which has been as fruity as anything I've ever done. We started it by talking about how Starmer likes to be hard on himself. We've had, is Meghan Markle going to be in a soft porn movie? And let's finish it with Zach Polanski, or Dave to his mates. We've only got a minute, who says that breast hypnosis was very, very good for business. But Dave Polanski wants us all to know, and I'll leave the last word to you, Charlie, ready, that he drew the line at penises.
Yes, well, you know, business ballooned, didn't it? But I think that was probably the only thing that he was able to grow, which is his business, which, thankfully, I assume, unless somebody wants to look into his tax return.
I make no apology for the fact that we need to microscopically look at how completely barking the Green Party is, because this country is at a seminal moment. You're amazing. You came from Sunderland, you need to go home to bed. Thank you so much. You're back next week?
Absolutely.
Charlie Roney leaves us hinting Hinge and Bracket return next week. 0344 499. Well, you go, dear. You go, dear. All right, Hinge, lovely. News at 7 is next, and it's Isabel Oakeshott. Hinge, just get out. Go home.
Fancy returning to the front line as Foreign Secretary?
I am going to return. I am going to return. To the people from whence I came.
Hello, I'm Peter Mandelson, and I'm proud to serve as His Majesty's British Ambassador to the United States of America.
I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
The Ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Mandy's out 4 decades and 3 scandals, or 3 that we know about. Guess what? Number 10 knew all about it. They knew that he lived in Jeffrey Epstein's flat.
Mandelson resigned from the Labour Party late last night over the allegations of $75,000 set of payments to him from Epstein while he was business secretary, $10,000 to his now husband, a photo of him in his pants. This isn't just bad form. There are strong arguments here for him to be facing investigation over misconduct in public office.
I knew of his association with Epstein, but had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
Breaking news that Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt. This is the establishment, the British establishment on trial. Came to us around about 5 o'clock when we learned that we saw footage of Peter Mandelson being led out of his London home in very exclusive Regent's Park by 3 coppers.
Now we have all these allegations, we have all the documentation related to those allegations, which Downing Street is being forced to put out. The first tranche of it will be early next month.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning. Welcome back. This is, of course, the home of common sense and the home of, well, just the opportunity for you to come and put your views of the news of the day. Talk. JK at the controls. If you want to be on between now and 10 o'clock, 0344 499 1000. Your voice notes to Christian, your calls to Tommy, your texts and whatever you want to talk about, 87222. What are you waking up to? Well, the phone saga continues. You'll know that the story from yesterday, Morgan McSweeney, the ex-chief of staff of Starmer, they announced an investigation. We need to look at all the messages. We need to find out what was said and how much everybody knew. Oh, you've lost your phone, have you? It was stolen. In a different street, you said it was stolen. Yeah, the tracker was off, was it? Yeah. Oh, all the messages were deleted, and you gave the wrong location. But actually, overnight, even more surprisingly, turns out that Mandelson was not asked to hand over his phone messages when he was fired. This is not going away. I had cabbies shouting at me and saying, "It's not in my cab, Jezza." If you are listening to the show and you've a sighting of Morgan McSweeney's phone, we'd be delighted to hear from you. 87222. Badenoch, all the press, the mail, everybody's in on that. It just doesn't bloody well add up. But at 4 minutes past 7, let's just take a moment, please. If we could down the movement and the show and just bring in some calming and sad music, because last night, ladies and gentlemen, Keir Starmer decided that it would be just correct to address the nation and tell us really how impacting it is on him and the mistakes he's made. And he was talking about the Lord Mandelson debacle, and he got quite misty-eyed, and he said, I I beat myself up. In fact, he said, nobody is harder on me than myself. That might be open for debate if you watch this. He went on to say that, do you know, cut the music. Can I tell you something, right? All this, I feel sorry for victims. Well, I've one thing to say to you this morning, Starmer, and Beth Rigby, you should have asked this question. Charlie Rowley's right. You're suddenly worrying about the victims, quite rightly, of the Epstein files, not a mention about the young white English girls whose lives were completely traumatised because they were raped in the north and all across this country because you refuse to have a rape gang inquiry. Shame on you. Shame on the way the pensioners were treated. No tears for them. No tears for the waspy women. No tears for our farming community. Tears, mea culpa. No, it's too late. That to me tells me you are absolutely in the last chance saloon and you know it. It was a cynical attempt. It looks like Prince Andrew's interview on Newsnight and the British public will not fall for your BS. Good morning, Laura.
Morning, Jeremy. Morning, Charlie. Laura in Wiltshire. I'm laughing, thinking that Starmer really thinks he's harder on himself than anybody else. Clearly not been tuning in to Talk for the last year or so, has he? Anyway, keep it up. Great show.
We say a very good morning to a lady who I'm sure will have a lot to say. Talk's international editor. A very good morning, Isabel Oakeshott.
Good morning.
Are you feeling sorry for Keir Starmer this morning? It was quite an emotional interview with Beth Rigby. He said that he is very hard on himself. In fact, he used that word several times. I beat myself up for the mistakes I made. Your response, please, Isabel, in a calming and decent way to Keir this morning.
I'm feeling very sorry for Great Britain and the entire population that has to put up with such an inadequate Prime Minister. And I just thought the words were so phony. If he was so hard on himself, then why hasn't he resigned? You know, it's perfectly obvious that he's practically universally despised. It's quite obvious that he's failing by every yardstick that he has, you know, put out there. I mean, he's set himself various tasks like getting the economy growing, like stopping the boats and smashing the gangs. He hasn't achieved any of them. And now we've got this complete debacle over Morgan McSweeney's phone and the whole Peter Mandelson affair. So if he's that harsh on himself, if he's harsher on himself than everybody else, then that means he should resign.
Great comment from Tony this morning, which I think sums it up, because the cynic in me, I was saying earlier, you know, you're in the press, we do our jobs. If a celebrity or somebody in the spotlight gets caught out, they do what is called a mea culpa. They do an interview, they look misty-eyed, and everybody apparently says that you can then move on. To me, even that interview was about timing, and even he misjudges this. But and the thing that's wound a lot of people up, as you quite rightly said, is, oh, suddenly I care about women. Tony goes, Starmer, 2 years ago, couldn't even describe what a woman is. So how the hell has he got the nerve in an interview to say, I've spent my entire life sticking up for women and girls? It makes me physically sick. It's a really good point, isn't it?
It just doesn't ring true. But this is the thing with Keir Starmer, that he's complete in a way that I've never seen from any other Prime Minister, with perhaps the exception of Liz Truss. He's completely incapable of connecting with ordinary voters. And I don't mean that just as in when he's out and about, because of course most of us are not unlucky enough to have to encounter him face to face. I mean that when he's actually looking into a TV camera or talking to an interviewer, it just sounds so weird and just unnatural and rehearsed. And you look at his face and there's just nothing there.
It's really interesting what you've just said, because I watched that interview and I'm being completely honest. I've done this a long time and I can tell if somebody genuinely is caught in the headlights or has nowhere to turn. You're so right, it looked contrived, it looked robotic. You know, some of the papers were saying, oh, he got emotional. That's about as emotional as you get. But even that, you listen to the words, you look at the timing, and you just go, that's a cynical, yet again attempt to, I just don't know. Nothing has ever run true to me about this man. I was saying 2 years ago, we've talked, there's just no DNA in him, I think, politically, that makes me think he's got anything about him. I don't believe there's an honest... This is a shocking thing to say. I don't believe there's an honestly genuine, authentic fibre in his body. I just don't feel anything for the man.
You know what I would love to see, because it would just be so fascinating to see if there's any contrast. Could we just see Keir Starmer completely I was going to say unbuttoned up, but that would fit with the innuendo theme of your morning.
What are you trying to say, Isabel? What are you trying to say, innuendo? What are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is, can we just see him like in a t-shirt and some casual clothes, talking like a normal person? Is he actually capable of that? Can he do something that's unrehearsed, that's fluid, that shows us the real Keir Starmer? Yeah. Or is this it? Is there nothing other than this totally wooden persona? I'm not actually sure there is anything other. You know, I have seen this with politicians. When they professionalize, they become the politician to such an extent that the real person begins to disappear. And you've almost lost who that person is.
And I think that's a really interesting point. I was working somewhere yesterday and we were having this discussion. I don't believe the British public now are interested in seemingly squeaky clean politicians who get everything right. In fact, I think the British public are ready for a politician to say, right, before I stand and give you what I believe in, I've been divorced twice, at 16 I smoked a joint, blah, blah, blah. Because we're not... But these people that pretend to be squeaky clean and then try and move the dial, it's just unauthentic. I just... listen to this. I mean, what's really getting people is not the fact that he's robotic and wooden, they're past that, or the fact that he's a liar. It's that, like all apparently attempting people to get past something, he decided to make it all about I care for women. Linda in Warmer says, Starmer's interview is a complete and utter lie. Rosie Duffield MP stood aside from Labour a year ago because of his continuing and utter contempt of women. He even spoke in a different voice to sound more human. Why didn't Beth Rigby call him out? The man's a fraud. I think that that's the impression this morning.
Well, Beth Rigby is a very experienced...
Yeah, I love her. But she should have mentioned the grooming gangs.
She is seen as a bit of a friend of the Labour government. So, you know, I think she could perhaps have been a little bit more aggressive on him. But she landed the interview, all credit to that. And she landed that moment, which is so revelatory in so many ways. You know what's bothering me, JK, this morning? I'm beginning to think we might be stuck with this guy. You know, is there a horrible possibility that post the May elections, which we all know are going to be a disaster, that he somehow clings on? Is that a possibility? I'm not putting it as a probability, but I feel there might be a 10% chance. And that is too much for me this morning. The
interesting thing, we were talking about this earlier, I don't understand specifically, you'll be able to tell me more, but Liz Truss was sort of eviscerated, for want of a better phrase, because the markets were spooked by the speed with which she wanted to bring in. We all talk about Starmer as, you know, this android who has no personality, who is not the person's lead. We all talk about the real power behind the throne is the equally appalling Ed Miliband and Angela Rayner. And we all say every day, oh, my God, what could come after them could be even worse. Do you see a situation that the incompetence of this government financially could ever be brought home to roost with a call as was Liz Truss? Or are we going to be allowed to limp on for 3 years with increasing unemployment, increasing taxation, increasing inflation, and being laughed at sort of domestically and internationally? Can you see a case whereby the financial side of the United Kingdom brings him and his government down?
I think there's a really small possibility. I know it's something that Nigel Farage, the Reform leader, considers to be more of a probability. I mean, he's repeatedly said that he believes that there will be an election, a general election in 2027. And I believe he repeated that last night at a big rally. It is the beginning of the local election campaign, and we're going to hear a lot of that from Reform, I think. And I know my partner Richard Tice, who's much more expert in all things economy than I am, thinks it's a small but significant chance that there is some kind of market catastrophe that brings this government down. But it is pretty hard to see the mechanism. You know, ultimately, this government is never going to willingly go to the polls because it knows it's doomed. And so it would have to be a real crisis, probably more than the Liz Truss situation, when the markets just run absolutely out of control, and measures would need to be taken by the government to bring the economy back under control. And Keir Starmer, because of his inability to get any legislation through, even though he's got a huge majority, has to go to the country because he can't get through those fiscal measures that are needed to get the economy back on track. I don't see it myself, but much smarter people than me think it's a significant chance.
I think that's a chance, but I think there's another side to this, which is something that I probably hold on to. I mean, as a broadcaster, I'd love him to stay for 3 years because every single day it's easy to do this job. But as a UK resident, as a father, as a taxpayer, I want them out. I'm old enough, much older than everybody listening, I know, and you, to remember 79, and there will always be the truth that the cupboard ends up bare. But I wonder, okay, whether people said this to me about Sunak and then they thought I was mad. I think Rishi Sunak was so hacked off with the whole thing, he called a general election early to get the hell out. I wonder whether the thought of 3 more years where he can't even say hello without checking with his cabinet, where he's completely neutered because of his backbenches, I wonder whether he'll eventually look at how unpopular he is, how completely incapable he is of doing anything, and will simply say, do you know what, sod you lot, I'm calling an election, we're going to lose anyway, and you're all going to lose your jobs. I just wonder whether that would ever be part of the debate.
I don't actually, I'm going to give him a tiny bit of credit now. I actually don't think he's as vindictive as that. He's just too boring. You know, he's just not that Machiavellian, is he? It kind of would be quite good fun if he did something like that. If he just massively threw his toys out the pram. A bit like David Cameron when he lost the Brexit vote. He was just like, yeah, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna walk out now. I'm just gonna go and get myself a job with some lobbying company and earn a load of money, and just gonna leave you guys to clear up the mess. That was the kind of petulant David Cameron, a man totally in control of his destiny, quite assured of his own brilliance, just sauntered off. I just can't see Starmer being quite that kind of spontaneous.
Do you think he loves the trappings? Do you think anybody in that role loves the trappings of being Prime Minister too much to ever walk away from it voluntarily?
100%. I mean, of course it's hard work. It's brutal. The hours are horrific. You know, you just get slagged off day in, day out. But you do know that after you've done it, there is an enormous opportunity to make big money. And that I can see, is an appealing thing. But ultimately, once you're there, it's pretty hard to let go, I'm sure.
Amazing. We've talked about the phone. We've talked about Starmer's ridiculous interview. Just very quickly before we let you go, over in the States, Donald Trump has said that he does not need Britain's 2 toy aircraft carriers to help him in the war with Iran. Speaking during a cabinet meeting, the US president mocked HMS Queen Elizabeth and the Prince of Wales, saying the Navy's prize warships aren't the best aircraft carriers. But I want to play you a different clip. I want to play you the clip where he says, we've always been there. Not sure if it'll happen again in the future. Listen to this. Watch this if you can.
We're always going to be there, or at least we were. I don't know about anymore, to be honest with you. I have to be honest. We were always there when they needed help. We always would have been there when they needed help. I mean, think of it. We're there to protect Europe from Russia. In theory, it doesn't affect us. We have an ocean, big, fat, beautiful ocean. But we're there to protect NATO, to protect them from Russia. But they're not there to protect us. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense.
I'd just like to say on record, Isabel, and I've said it before, there's stuff about Trump that I don't agree with. I don't like it when he slagged our troops off. I don't necessarily have to agree, although I think our military infrastructure is an appalling example. But I stuck up for him and I supported him when he made the points about NATO and payment, and he's absolutely right there. Those bases should have been given to him instantaneously because of the special relationship, and you wouldn't put it against him the next time Europe wants him to pay this, do that, do the other, him telling them you can go and do your own thing. And that's also as a result of the way that Starmer's played this, isn't it?
I totally agree with what Trump said there. We basically look like freeloaders, not just the UK, but pretty much all the other NATO member states, with a few honourable exceptions. And at this point, Britain looks like the worst freeloader of all. And I thought it was a completely reasonable statement. By the way, as was his commentary about our aircraft carriers. I mean, even the former Defence Secretary Ben Wallace would agree with this if you asked him. I believe that he actually tried and failed to scrap one of the aircraft carriers because effectively, without the right kit on them, they are obsolete. You know, it took 25 years from the beginnings of those, from the first imaginations of the aircraft carriers to actually complete them. And at any one time, sometimes neither of them are actually doing anything. Mostly at least one, and sometimes both of them are having so many issues, mechanical issues, that they're not actually at sea. And all we've ever used them for is sort of friendly tours of, let's just go out and say hello to Australia.
Right.
And when you actually need them, where are they? They're not deployed.
I don't disagree with his assessment of our ridiculous capability. I don't disagree with him about, you know, how it's always been the United States. I just think that some of the things that he said about soldiers and stuff are unnecessary, but that's the man you get. I've said it a long time. The reason Trump is completely able to stamp all over his Starmer is because Starmer hasn't got the backbone to stand up to him. Marvellous. 7:20, thank you. You've been and are amazingly supportive. We appreciate everything that you do. Have a lovely weekend. The lovely Isabel Oakeshott Talks International Editor. Thank you very much indeed. 7:20. Oh my God, the amount of messages. Chris in Chester. The PM comes across as a character from a Harry Enfield sketch. He could not make himself more ridiculous and detached from reality if he tried. Starmer's a robot. If you gave him a brain scan, God, you'd probably find the innards of a 1960s transistor radio blaring out nasal music. Do you know what, Starmer? I know you don't listen, but just tune in, because at the end of this show, you are going to absolutely understand that the only option you've got is to leave office. Morning, James.
Good morning, Jezza. Week after week, month after month, lie after lie, this Prime Minister, blimey, he has lied so many times. I don't know what's what anymore. And this government, they're now going on about screen time. All a distraction. I'm more interested in these men coming over here, assaulting women and children, and also these Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. Those victims will never get justice. It's absolutely unbelievable. And Prime Minister's questions should be changed to not Prime Minister's questions. This absolute never answers the question. Unbelievable. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV.
Welcome back, 7:25. It's Friday morning, you lucky people. The weekend is nigh and talk is on across the UK. Listen, so much response this morning. Your voice notes and your calls on 0344 499 1000. Your text to 87222. We're talking about the mystery of the missing phone of Morgan McSweeney. Is it in your cab? Is it in your house? Is it in your garden? Because sure as eggs is eggs, Morgan McSweeney can't find it. It might be because he gave the police the wrong address. Seemingly, there's no tracker on it. Seemingly, the WhatsApp messages have gone. And seemingly, the whole thing's a load of unbelievable tripe. However, overnight, Peter Mandelson, he wasn't even asked to give his phone in. This is murkier than a murky thing from Murkyland. The other thing that's really got you lot going this morning, and we're going to keep playing it because I think it's important to make the UK understand the depth to which Keir Starmer feels he's dropped. And he wants you to know, all of you, that he apologises and he feels it. And just before we play this, he's talked about being, you know, really hard on himself and beating himself up. And Tom in Pontypridd says Starmer beats himself up over Mandelson. At least there will be a happy ending to all of this. Play the clip.
Nobody has been harder on me in relation to the mistake I made there than me. And I'll tell you for why. I've spent years trying to deal with violence against women and girls. And as I look back at it now and the mistake I make, I've been really hard on myself. In the immediate days after this all came out, I was particularly hard on myself. So, yeah, everybody else was criticising, I guess, all that. But nobody was criticising me more than myself. And I hate the fact I made that mistake. And I dwell on it. I beat myself up about it. It's certainly not a mistake I'd ever repeat. But there's no criticism anybody else can level at me that will be as harsh as the criticism I've dished out for myself.
Oh, we'll try listening to this every morning. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. I see the Prime Minister on Sly News last night when I got home, and forgive me for not getting the violins out or having any sympathy for this fella. This is the man who says he beats himself up because he made a mistake. He didn't make a mistake. He knew what Mandelson did and hired him anyway. A mistake is when you spell something wrong or you spill your cup of tea on the floor like I did this morning. And if I hear him say anymore, I've spent decades defending women and girls in this country. Yeah, apart from the working class white girls who have been raped for decades by Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. Let's not forget about them, shall we? Anyway, Jeremy, great show, mate.
Couldn't agree with him more. Absolutely. We say a very good morning. Delighted to have her on. I'm always slightly in awe of my next guest, former Home Office Minister Anne Widdecombe. Welcome to breakfast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm doing my best to try and be as balanced as I can when that idiot still remains in number 10. Can I go straight to what that last caller said? And I say this to a lady. I absolutely cannot forget the lack of, the robotic lack of authenticity that surrounds Starmer. To have the gall, Anne, to suddenly say I've spent my life fighting for young girls and women. I'll give you some examples. As Sean said, no national rape gang inquiry, because we all know, don't we, he's terrified of alienating a certain sectarian vote. Rosie Duffield, who walked away from the Labour Party, an incredibly brave woman, saying he doesn't even understand what a woman is. This man will conjure up, in my humble opinion. I sat in a studio once with Piers Morgan, and he could not, Anne, forgive me, answer a simple question of has a woman or can a woman have a penis 9 times. I think he's an absolute disgrace to suddenly use this because he's squirming on the end of a hook.
Indeed. And, I mean, the fact is we've had different versions of how he made this mistake. You know, first of all, that Mandelson underplayed completely his association with Epstein, and then finally it comes out that actually he didn't quiz Mandelson after all. So I'm not impressed by all of this, and you're quite right to point to the Pakistani rape gangs. He did nothing about that. I mean, I understand that he wants to say he's sorry, but that long mea culpa was just not convincing.
It looked to me, and so many people have said this already, Anne, it looked to be as almost car crash as the late Duke of York's interview, because it just, the one thing, and again, you were a minister. I was talking about, you know, if you're in the public eye and you make a mistake, you just said mea culpa, but it was so, I don't know, even when he smiled, and when I wouldn't make the same mistake again. I mean, let's talk about the I know, unbelievable. Let's talk about the specifics of McSweeney's phone, which is the most extraordinary story. Let me start by asking you, I know what you're going to say, because I've said it to several ministers, you're an ex-minister in the government. How in the name of God are we supposed to believe there was no tracker on the phone, the government phone of the second most powerful person in the United Kingdom? Ridiculous, Anne.
No, the whole story has been ridiculous from the start. I mean, you know, everybody is constrained by the libel laws, but the person who isn't, of course, is the leader of the opposition, who can ask what question she likes in Parliament. And I think she should, because right from the start, none of this has really added up. I mean, you know, we're told, first of all, well, the police didn't bother. Well, quite honestly, you know, if I had been in that senior a position and I thought the police weren't bothering, I'd be making one heck of a fuss about the fact that the police weren't bothering. Then we're given a different version and the police say, well, hang on, he didn't actually tell us, you know, where this came from, that it was Downing Street. He didn't tell us any of that. And so we've got several different stories going on. What we do know is that probably on that phone, there would have been stuff relating to Mandelson. I put it no higher than that, stuff relating to Mandelson. And the phone should have been checked. Mandelson's phone should certainly have been checked.
Well, we heard overnight that his phone was not asked, he was not asked to hand over his phone messages with McSweeney after he lost his job for crime. The whole thing smacks of a cover-up.
Well, if there's a cover-up, there's an awful lot of people involved in the cover-up, but what I do think can be said with complete truth and complete certainty is that we have not got the full facts of this story.
And I agree with you. I think back to a few weeks ago when he was nearly toppled because I think he said, I'll decide, unbelievably, I'll decide what messages the police are going to get. And actually, I think it was a question by a Reform MP and Tories and the Labour backbenchers all went, you're not in a position to do that. So suddenly they had to release them all. This smacks of the same thing. We woke up yesterday to the news at the Cabinet Office. Did you see this one, Anne? And now it's yesterday morning. We found, ready for an underlined word, some of them. Well, I'm not into tech, but presumably if I send you a message and I lose my phone, they'd be on your phone. Apparently there's this thing in the air called the cloud. These are government officials. Andrew Griffiths, ex-minister, told me, as you will, as everybody else, that these phones are tracked. This is... But it's the... I'll tell you what it is. It's the contempt with which he appears to treat the electorate that just does not go missed at all. It doesn't.
No, I agree entirely. I mean, he is arrogant. He is certain that he can stop things that he wants to stop. He can't. And it's just time now. I mean, you rightly say, you know, you send an email. Two people are involved in that email. The one who sends it, the one who receives it. Now, unless you go into quite a complicated business of deleting entirely, it will be on your phone. All I can say is that, you know, were I in a guilty position and wanted to conceal messages, losing my phone or deleting stuff before it got into the hands of the police would be what I would think of doing.
You know I have a job to do and you have a job to do. Do you not believe the phone was nicked then?
As I say, I'd be very careful of the libel laws. Just be very, very careful. I mean, it may have been stolen.
Yeah.
And he may have panicked because it was stolen. So we don't know.
But you tell them... I mean, the other thing that you didn't say, which I forgot, he got the wrong street in the wrong part of London, for God's sake. I mean, the whole thing is like some sort of... He said Belgrave Street, which isn't in Pimlico, it's in Bleed. I mean, the whole thing is... And we played the whole call yesterday morning, and you just go, nah, this doesn't make sense. And actually, on a serious note, we with everything that's going on in this country, cost of living crisis, people's bills are impacting, the immigration issues, the doctors going back on strike, an NHS that's, again, overstretched, and so many things that, you know, mark us down as not being successful. We're all fixated on a Prime Minister, and I think understandably, who doesn't seem to be able to convince anybody in this country that he's either competent or trustworthy, Anne.
Well, he isn't competent and he isn't trustworthy. And, you know, I have no fear of the libel laws in saying that. Absolutely incompetent, absolutely untrustworthy. You can't believe a word he says, and you can't believe that he'll do the things he says he'll do because he changes his mind 5 minutes later. I have very, very little respect for this man at all. But you're quite right. We all are fixated on this when, you know, the world is an extremely dangerous place at the moment.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons we're fixated on it is, of course, your profession, quite honestly, because you decide what the headlines are and you decide what we'll talk about. Not you personally, Jeremy, but your profession.
No, I agree. And it's you know, I was thinking this morning, or was it yesterday? You know, Trump, again, it was this morning, overnight, you know, aircraft carriers, they're toys, I don't want them, this, that and the other. And then I think we haven't talked about the Ukraine-Russia war for a month because we've been fixated. There's just so much, but I suppose you start, don't you, with the fulcrum of where it all lies. And the man that represents us in front of Trump, or the man that decides what's going to happen to our borders, or the man who decides whether we finally drill. Oh, no, sorry, that's Ed Miliband, isn't it? He decides. But essentially, it does all come back to incompetence. And I just never, I'll be completely honest with you, I never thought, after the debacle of the Tories, and I was the archetypal Tory voter who just didn't in the end believe them, so I didn't vote for them. This has been less than 2 years, Anne. I mean, I wouldn't swear in front of you, but it's an absolute... The whole thing's just a mess.
And this is precisely why reform is doing so well, because it used to be the case that if a government of a particular party was making a mess, say the Tories, you think, oh, well, it's OK, Labour will come along and sort this out. And if it was Labour making the mess, you thought Tories will come along and sort it out. Now you know neither is capable of sorting it out, and people want change. The old order is dying, I've no doubt about that at all, and people want change, and they're right to do so. Can I just get in a very quick one about Trump? I understand his frustration entirely, and I would agree with him when he mocks, you know, our supposed defence capabilities. But let me say this: he says he's always been there, they've always been there for us, we haven't always been there for them. First of all, yes, they did give us the assistance which enabled us to win the Second World War. But for 2 years, they did not. And they only did it because of Pearl Harbor. So don't let's get the idea that they did this, you know, solely because they wanted to help Europe. And secondly, you know, we weren't there for them. We were in Afghanistan. That was a NATO war. It wasn't just an American war. It was a NATO war. We were there for them in Afghanistan. So he really ought to just show a little bit more respect.
But couldn't agree more. Said it at the beginning of the show, said it at 7 o'clock. To me, I don't necessarily disagree with Starmer not going in all guns blazing. Excuse the pun. I totally disagree with him when he didn't give them access to those bases. But the way you deal with Donald Trump, presumably, Anne, is in way of standing by what you believe in and saying, listen, we have a special relationship, but I'm not sending troops or I'm not sending planes. You can have the bases, and diplomatic in all those ways will support you. But the problem is, and we bring it back to Keir Starmer, because he dithers, because he flip-flops, because he cannot do anything without checking with a focus group, a SPAD, his backbenchers. There's too many people in his tent for him to ever make a decision. I mean, yesterday, before we finish, apparently drilling for oil, which anybody with a brain cell says is a good idea. Ed Miliband's job. He's the Prime Minister, for God's sake. Make a decision.
Yes, there is never any situation in which a Prime Minister can say, this is a matter for the Secretary of State for such and such. Secretaries of State can say this is a matter for the Prime Minister. Doesn't work the other way round. There are cabinet decisions for which the Prime Minister is answerable, and therefore he cannot dodge this by simply passing it on to Ed Miliband, who, quite frankly, the sooner he's out, the better.
It's so lovely to see you. I love talking to you. Don't choke. Have some water. Thank you so much, as ever. The brilliant Anne Widdecombe, former Home Office Minister, 20 minutes to 8 o'clock. Now, we've been getting lots and lots of voice notes about Keir Starmer saying, and I quote, I'm beating myself up. Nobody's harder on myself than me. So can you dial down the violence? Because we can't condone it and we can't really play it. So, I mean, I can have a laugh, but I'm not allowed to. Just dial down a bit on the things that you think you'd like to do to Starmer. Morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Jeremy. What a miserable day it is here in Nottingham. Oh, my God. Beat himself up? No, love. I want to batter you. Batter you, Mr. Starmer. Starling Starmer.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 80 minutes to 8. You're very welcome to Talk Breakfast. It's the home of common sense, the home of Alarm Clock Britain. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. This is the shortest voice note in the history of the world. Go, Debbie.
Hi, Jez, that's Debbie. Keir Starmer, I think, is a total knob.
Brilliant. Great. OK. Morning to Roger in Weymouth. Of course, Starmer regrets what he did. He got caught out. Would he secretly be beating himself up now if he hadn't been caught out? No, Roger, of course he wouldn't. Hello to Jack from Bristol. Every time I see Starmer on the TV screen, I'm struck by his appearance to a potato. He has all the charisma and empathy of a Maris Piper. And as for that dropkick Ed Davey with his antics in marching bands and water slide, I'm reminded of Shrek. Honestly, you lot are in good form today. James is in Paula James in Bexhill. Morning again, Jez. I think Starmer has joined Meghan Markle in his acting career. Oh, God. Tracy in Chingford. Isn't it a shame Starmer hasn't been as hard on himself over the grooming gangs? Could not agree at more. Anthony, the Beth Rigby skyinterview was pre-arranged and orchestrated to try and show a different side to Starmer, which the public could see straight through. He is finished beyond repair. Finished beyond repair? And he knows it. Never has there been a Prime Minister that is so hated by so many for so long on the beaches. The Labour Party are a finished commodity, and the only thing they can do now is cause more damage, which seems to be their deliberate intention. They hate this country and everyone in it. But we have to push back. John from Angus, I think Isabel could well be right. He and a lot of his cohorts are so wound up with their own ideology, think what they're doing is the right thing and things will get better very soon. But the truth is they're not right about anything. And Phil in Coventry, Stalin didn't stick up for Lucy Connolly when she went to prison for 31 months for a tweet. And I'm going to do this because we're going to find a picture, because I've been reading about this. Simon in Durham. Have we got the picture? No? Have we got the picture? So there were some rumours going around that Starmer, who I have to say always looks quite smart, he ties a tie better than Gordon Brown tied a tie. But there are rumours going around that the man's got a hairpiece. We're going to find a photo later, but Simon in Durham says, can we please address the rumour going round that Starmer is wearing a hairpiece? Because surely the truth is it's yet another cover-up. Brilliant. Right, let's get serious. 7:45. Let's cross to a man whose appearance last time on the show created such interest. We'll say a very good morning to the former head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove. Sir Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Well, doing my best to get through the quagmire of Starmer and his inability to tell the truth, but there we go. Sir Richard, so much I want to talk about. I'd love a view of where you think we are, but of course the headlines tend to be on a daily basis, the latest insult thrown our way from the White House. But if we step away from the personal side of those attacks, is Donald Trump right that our aircraft carriers are toys and that militarily we're about as impressive as, well, let's be honest, Luxembourg got a ship to Cyprus quicker than us and they're landlocked?
Well, we have a problem in rebuilding our defence capability, and we have two large aircraft carriers, which are controversial in their own way. One of them is in service, one of them is not. But, I mean, overall, our military capability is dreadfully run down and needs to be urgently rebuilt now, not, in 3 or 4 years' time, not batted down the road. We need to put this at the top of the government's spending priority, or they need to put it at the top of the government's spending priorities. It's really important, really important.
I've been at pains whenever this discussion's happened to say that it's very, and I'm not a fan of what's going on at the moment, but this isn't just Starmer and Labour. Those cuts, we've talked about it before, Sir Richard, have been orchestrated over many years along with the band of austerity. And we've been left short. But where I will agree with Trump when he was first elected, when he came in and said, I put more money into NATO to protect you lot than you put in yourselves. And it definitely, if one thing will come from what's happening in Iran, will it be that there should and could be a realisation that we do need to defend ourselves for all sorts of security reasons?
Absolutely. And there is a shortfall in our capability in all sorts of different areas. There's recently been this discussion of missile defense. The good thing about the war in Iran is, well, and similarly Ukraine, it is forcing the country to focus on this issue. And it's more important than National Health Service, I'm sorry to say. It's more important than welfare. It's got to be at the top of every British politician's agenda, whether they're in office or they're not. And we need to start making good years of neglect now. The capability of the country is seriously run down. And it's the fault of successive governments. And you can't sort of fake the defence figures. I mean, for example, what they have done to build up the defence budget is put the cost of the intelligence and security community, which never was in the past in the defence budget, into it to make it look bigger. Military pensions have been put in to make it look bigger. We're not actually spending the sums of money that the government claim that we're spending.
And as a former head of a security service, our biggest, if we're being honest, that must always be something that you need to have in your locker, that you know that if you're trying to do your job, that we are in a position. Can I ask you about the decision-making? And I'm not asking you to be political. Were these politicians naive to a point where they never thought there would be this sort of situation again? Because we are, and it isn't Starmer. We'll start with Cameron. We'll go to Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Rishi. We'll go to all of them. They have left us embarrassingly and dangerously vulnerable. But of course, it's difficult. You can't say that to people. I said to you the other week, my 22-year-old rang me and said, can the missiles reach the United Kingdom? Because people will start to worry. And if you can't defend yourself, that worry will grow, won't it?
Yeah, and we had a full sense of security at the end of the Cold War. And, there was a priority to cut defence spending, thinking that, we could manage with a small, it was called the sort of peace dividend. And this problem goes back a long way. I particularly blame Cameron and Osborne for their attitude towards it. And okay, 9/11 did sort of changed the situation somewhat, but we thought that we could manage security problems with special forces, with elite, groups. And we have retained the capability. Some of it's very good indeed, but it's very small. Yeah. It's not big enough. And look at the lessons we're learning from Ukraine. These are hard lessons which are being taught us every single day. And now, we have an even bigger problem in front of us generated by the attack on Iran.
In terms of just answering that question from my daughter, from your knowledge, and I hate to do this, but I think it's a really important point. And I said it to you last time. If we talk about the threats to this country's security or the terror level threat, you get accused of either, you shouldn't talk about it because that'll frighten people, or, you need to talk about it more. Where are we at in your experience? Where are we at right now?
Well, look, I'm not an expert on missile defense, but where we're at is suddenly realizing that we have a significant loss of capability which needs to be immediately rebuilt. And there is the example recently of this Iranian missile fired towards the Chagos Islands, which has a longer range than I think many people realized. And this, if you draw circles around Iran and you judge the range, theoretically, they're ballistic missiles which could now reach the UK. And we're, dependent on shipborne anti-missile defense. We haven't got enough of them. We're not building them fast enough. Look, the problem perhaps could be solved quickly by purchasing Patriots or more Patriots, the anti-missile capability from the United States. And, people are thinking and worrying about this now fast, but as well as I do, military procurement takes time.
Yeah.
Building the stuff takes time. Building up the armed forces, takes time. Training people takes time. And there's suddenly a massive urgency about this. The first responsibility of the government is the security of the nation. It's not the health of the nation, it's the security of the nation. Health is partly a personal responsibility.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, and I think it's almost, Richard, to me, a dereliction of the duty of several governments that they've rendered a country that's an island as seemingly, as vulnerable. And of course, the reason that and I'm not an overall fan, but the reason I supported Trump when he came back, when he made those comments about NATO, he's absolutely right. We have allowed America, Europe in its entirety, certainly the United Kingdom, to be the person that we rely on. Suddenly they've got a president who's going, I want to put the American people first. We need to do something. Can I put this to you very quickly, my friend? This Saturday in London, tens of thousands of protesters will descend. It's a rally organised by the Together Alliance to stop the far right, or anybody who's not left, I imagine. However, among their supporters are radical Muslim charities, individuals, several who described the rape and slaughter of Israelis on October the 7th as a lie and have said that Zionists love killing and love genocide. Quick question as the ex-leader of MI6. Who's the biggest threat to national security, the supposed far right or radical Islam, in your view?
Look, this is a terrible trope that, our politicians have produced. I'm afraid that risk to the United Kingdom's national security from radical Islamism is very, very serious. There are some extremists on the right who have also espoused violence. But if you compare the two issues, I'm afraid one is a minor problem right off the edge of the map, and the other is a major social problem amongst us.
We do this every day. I don't, whatever side one would be on, it's really difficult to imagine that we're allowing this sort of hatred on our streets, which stirs up. And you know as well as I do that one has to be careful with certain things that one says. But we seem to me to be at a very dangerous moment in our history, not just militarily, as we've talked about, or security-based, but moral is the wrong word. Just this country, to me, and I'd be interested in your opinion, a man I respect a lot, is split like never before, Sir Richard.
There is a division, and it is very worrying. And I think we're all puzzled as to what the solution might be. But, you know, we need leadership and we need a government that takes a firm line on these issues. And I think some of what we see on our streets is shaming and terrible.
It's great to have you on. Always great to have you on, my friend. Thank you, as ever. Have a great weekend. Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6. Always a pleasure. Are we doing this now, Because this is very funny. And that's the beauty, sorry, in my opinion. I could be wrong. When we go from really hard-hitting stuff, this world is so full of at the moment, it's good to have a laugh. There's this alleged thing that Keir Starmer has got a hairpiece because his baldy top has gone a bit full head. There's an organisation called the Crooken Gazette. Crooken's down in Somerset. Do you know what they call it down there? Crooken. They do amazing pieces. Have a look at this. This is a 40-second... This is funny. Play the clip.
I'm here to visit Andy's wig emporium in the sleepy market town of Crooken in Somerset to speak with a local employer and perhaps fit a new wig. So then, Andy, how long have you been here?
Around 10 years now.
Do you have any other famous customers?
Beth Rigby, Rachel Reeves and Ian Hislop, to name a few.
OK, I'm ready for a new wig.
We've got a new wig for you just in. This should be perfect for you.
Put the... Sorry. So it's online. He's now got a blonde sort of red bob on. He now looks like Rachel. He's gone into a wig shop in Crooken run by Prince Andrew, and there are other famous persons, but it's absolutely hysterical. Brilliant. Crooken Gazette, we salute you. Almost 8 o'clock, we're live across the UK. So much to happen in the next 2 hours. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. It's the home of common sense, and the news at 8 is next.
Good morning to you. This is Tour the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Labour MP. They say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson.
We've now had another resignation from number 10. The plot is sickening, the noose is tightening.
His failings are internal. He's useless, incompetent, has no political judgment.
This is all part of Starmer's reset, getting rid of his inner circle. So Chris Wormold, we think fairly reluctantly, has stepped down.
What an absolutely crazy week for Keir Starmer. His second cabinet secretary, gone. His third chief of staff, gone. His fourth director of communications, gone.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
During the ad break and news, I just walked down the office to the toilet and came back and spoke to a couple of the guys. And I said, do you know, the extraordinary thing about this job is this government keeps delivering headlines that make it so easy. So if you're waking up or you're just tuning in, the phone saga of Morgan McSweeney, the ex-chief of staff, continues. He didn't have the tracker on, he didn't have his WhatsApp messages on, and he didn't remember the name of the street that he lost in. He didn't tell the police he was Morgan McSweeney. Yesterday we had Keir Starmer sitting down with Beth Rigby going, I'm a very, very disappointed man. I'm very hard on myself. I've upset myself and I've made mistakes. We're not buying that. But even this next piece of news is quite potentially going to cause alarm clock Britain to, I don't advocate headbutting walls or stopping the car and screaming out of your window. Let's just drop the music as we make this announcement. God. A Downing Street spokesman is downplaying these rumours, saying that they're speculation. But we can exclusively reveal breaking news. Keir Starmer, oh God, is set to make Sadik Khan a lord, and he's also expected to offer the London mayor a cabinet role after the local elections. So if you already weren't hacked off on Friday about a Prime Minister who's as false could be, in my opinion, right? He's set to make Sadik Khan a lord and give him a cabinet role after May the 7th, which tells you all you need to know about slippery stuff. I don't even know what to say to you lot anymore. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Loads of people lined up this hour. Let's go straight to my next guest, Nadeem Zahawi, former Chancellor of the Exchequer, defected to reform. Nadeem, so much to talk about. Sadik Khan a lord and potentially a cabinet role. This is nothing more than cynically trying to keep him on side, isn't it?
I think that's right. It's it feels like the end of days for this government. Dare I say, it took us about 12 years. The final two were pretty chaotic and difficult under the Conservative. It's taken them, 18 months? Complete chaos. Keir's frightened of his own shadow, can't prescribe the IRGC, can't prescribe the Muslim Brotherhood, brings Sadik Khan into his cabinet because he's probably worried about a challenge after the locals, when I think the country will back Nigel Farage, will back our local candidates. And he's trying to shore up his left flank against Angela Rayner. It's chaos. And I suspect it will implode soon.
Your line's not very good, which is disappointing, Nadeem, but there's so much I want to ask you. You have your critics. You were in a government that was heavily criticised in the end. Your story on a personal level is extraordinary. But I just want to ask you, as a high-ranking politician who's held some of the highest offices in the land, was your phone, did it have a tracker on when you were the Foreign Secretary and the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the other jobs you did?
Yeah, of course. Not only do you have to have a tracker, but the question to ask that no one's asked yet, not Beth Rigby, no one else. When we were in government, the rules were changed that ministers and their special advisors, so that would mean Morgan McSweeney, must not delete any messages, whether WhatsApp or otherwise, and must take a picture of the messages and then put them on the official system, because of all the stuff that had gone on before. If you remember...
With COVID.
With COVID and Lex Greensill. And there was a rule change. So the question to Keir Starmer, did he change that again, i.e. allow Morgan McSweeney and other ministers to delete their messages or keep 24-hour delete on? Or was it the same rules that we had? And if it's the same rules, then all those messages should be there.
I mean, somebody said to me yesterday, this Morgan McSweeney story, which I won't let go of, has got more holes in it than a Swiss cheese. I mean, the odds of it, your work one, not your mobile one, fair enough. Messages off, tracker off, can't remember the name of the street. Then really weirdly, yesterday when we came in, the cabinet went, oh, we found some, just some. That smacks of the other day when Starmer wanted to decide which ones he gave out. Then he's in Helsinki and he says, this is a bit far-fetched. It becomes farcical, Nadeem. And what the reason I have you on and I respect you is you've been very honest about the mistakes the last government made, but I don't think I've ever in my 60 years, I'm not sure whether it's contempt. People have said to me all morning, all week, does this government really think we are this stupid? And that's the, as layman's terms as that comes in, that's the truth. You look at you look at Starmer, and you know he's lying. And it's frightening to think, Nadeem, that we could have another 3 years of this.
Jeremy, you're absolutely right. I think the reason that they've plummeted in the polls is because the nation knows deep down that Starmer's not up to the job, and to keep him in number 10, the whole machine now basically lies every day, and I think that is pretty transparent, and I suspect people feel it and see it and know it. And I think it's going to be a very tough time for him in the locals, and I suspect we're going to have a general election a lot sooner than we think.
Well, now, this is a really interesting point, because the other thing that my viewers and my listeners would say every single day, Nadeem, is how long, how bad is it going to get if we have to put up with this destruction almost of everything that we know to be about Great Britain in the next 3 years? But Nigel Farage from Reform, and you've just followed up on that, has made no secret of the point that he believes it will be sooner. I asked somebody earlier, Liz Truss's government fell in 48 days because she tried to do things too quickly and the markets spooked. Can you, having been there at the epicentre of it, see a situation where the markets will spook as this government's incompetence, certainly in terms of the cost of living, continues to show itself?
It already has. If you look at the 10-year borrowing for the government, it already is an outlier compared to the rest of the G7, because the markets don't see the UK as strong enough economically. They see us as a fragile economy, impacted very much by this government's policies, whether it's Rachel Reeves in the Treasury or Ed Miliband, dare I say. You heard yesterday from the chief executive of Marks and Spencer's, half of their energy bill is government levies. It's choices the government has made to really hurt British business. And I think that will come home to roost very quickly. We're going to see real turbulence for the United Kingdom because of the weakness of the Treasury and because of the just extraordinary inability of this government to cut the levels of spending and to spend on the right things that would help.
I mean, somebody said to me the other day, you know this, you've held the jobs. We now have a £407 billion welfare benefits bill. We have more people. I mean, this is frightening. More people have come into this country since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister than we have in our joint armed forces. And for me, again, I say it as a 6-year-old who's been around the block a bit, what people are saying all the time is, It's unfair, Nadeem. That's the word I hear every single morning. And for the first time in history, in my life, people are saying, yeah, I understand people suffer in other countries, and I understand there are many who are disabled and mentally ill, but we need to get real. We need to look after ourselves at home, I'm sorry, first and foremost, and we need to say to the feckless and lazy, we're not against the genuine cases. The system's fantastic. We want to call you people out. We are not going to wipe your backsides forevermore to the detriment of hard-working alarm clock Brits who pay their taxes and are going, right, so if you come into this country, you get treated better than me. If you sit on your backside making an excuse, you're better off than me. Why the hell am I living my life the way I am?
I think that's right, Jeremy. Any other country in the world that is effectively being invaded by undocumented young men of fighting age from some of the most difficult war zones in the world would have a national emergency. The Prime Minister would be at the dispatch box saying, we've got a national emergency, we're going to have national emergency legislation to deal with this situation. This government hasn't done any of that. It can't even prescribe the IRGC, which a terrorist group, according to the European Union. According to Canada, they've prescribed the IRGC. At the same time, we're paying something like £13 billion that we're having to borrow. All this money is being borrowed, right? Because the deficit is 138 billion a year, of which about 112 billion is interest payments, the payments that we make on the borrowing we've already taken. So all this money's borrowed, yet we're giving 13 billion a year to foreigners who come to this country and claim benefits. Why would you do that? No other country in the world, right, however compassionate you want to be, if you want to come and live in the UAE or any other country in the world, you pay your way, right? Otherwise, you go home. It just doesn't make any sense.
And that as a theory, you see, I've thought it for a long time. I'm sure a lot of us have, but you've never. We couldn't even mention the word immigration 10 years ago, and still, if we have these discussions, there are certain people who go, "Oh, that's far right. That's outrageous." The BBC did not even talk about Morgan McSweeney in any way yesterday, and I don't care about your politics. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about generally. All I say to people every day is, if you are a jam just about managing, you've got a wife and two kids, and you go to work and your wife goes to work, and you try and pay your bills, which get ever bigger, your food shop gets bigger, your energy bills get bigger. I don't care, because politicians don't seem to be able to just look beyond the platitudes and the sound bites and go, do you know what? The hard-working, everyday person in this country is fed up to the back teeth of us seemingly being so moralistic and so good that we'll do anything for anybody, but not for our own. But when you say that to somebody, Nadeem, on the left, they go, what an outrageous view. What about these poor refugees? No, hold on a second. Yes, there are many problems in many countries, but why do you think it is that our politicians can't focus their brains on the problems we've got here? Why do you think that is?
I tell you what I think is happening. Around about a 3-mile radius of SW1, things seem okay, right? Because people have large enough salaries, including my fellow members of parliament, and of course, supplemented if you're a minister, and everything is fine because you can pay for it, right? A lot of the Labour hypocrite MPs send their children to private schools while they attack those same schools with VAT, right? But you leave that 3-mile radius, and it's why you look at what Nigel's doing with his tour of the country, Ipswich, Sunderland, yesterday, going around. You leave that 3-mile radius and nothing works because you can't get a GP appointment. The government says it's 2 weeks. You can't get it in under 6-7 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. When you get it, you go to hospital, and we're brain draining countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan and elsewhere because their nurses are here in our hospitals, and they're all planning to bring the rest of their family members over. What will that do? Add to the pressure on the health service, on schools. I've got friends who are barely, as you say, the jams, right, who have only one choice, which is to put their children in the lowest performing school in their county. Why? Because of immigration. Now, I'm immigrant stock myself, but we've got to stop and take account of what has happened when we've opened the doors to, you know, 1 million people coming in a year, mainly unskilled.
Yeah.
Putting pressure on our roads, on our schools, on...
You know what, Nadeem? I said to David Cameron years ago, and he looked at me like I'd landed from Mars. If you're telling me we have to open our borders to fill jobs because British people won't do them, hospital, port, whatever it is, right? I'd do the complete opposite. I'd close my borders and I'd say, I mean, there are 6 million people on unemployment benefit, and you'll never convince me that all of them are disabled or mentally ill. At least 2 million of them, I'm sure, are shirking. I would say to those people, you are only going to get your benefits if you give, whilst you're looking for a job, something back to the society that's paying for you to do this, because it works on every level. It works on giving them the motivation to get out of bed and get something on the CV and show their worth, and it gives them confidence. But no, no, no. You all sit there and do nothing, right? You just carry on, have 15 kids, and we'll open I think it's just round the wrong way. And this quest, or rather this past quest to make ourselves look as the leaders, the best moral people in the world, that doesn't wash for me anymore when hard-working not middle class, working class Brits are saying, what about us? What about us? They're the people we should be thinking about, surely, Nadeem.
Absolutely. Look, there's nothing moral or decent about letting down your own people for far too long, right? And I have to put my hand up and apologise for this, because I was part of that government. The Treasury orthodoxy, the groupthink in the Treasury was, as long as you had large levels of migration, GDP grew, right? That is, one, a very damaging policy. Why? Because, as you quite rightly pointed out, right, if you just let in lots and lots of people, millions, right, who are low skilled or unskilled, you're just going to hurt the services that we're supposed to deliver free at the point of delivery in the NHS, education to our people, right? What we need to focus on is GDP per capita. So you want the best people to come and pay taxes on day one, not to claim 13 billion a year in benefits.
Couldn't agree more.
So the reality is, the nation is now at a place, in my view, that they're fed up, which is why they want reform in to basically fix broken Britain. That's why we're doing so well in the polls.
Nadeem, it is absolutely always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you. Great to have you on. I know we're having lunch very soon, but great to have you on. Nadeem Zahawi, former Chancellor of the Exchequer, 8:20. If you are on the school run, if you are coming back from the night shift, if you are trying to get out the house, just take 10 seconds, because we have breaking news on Talk. God, it's like pennies from heaven this morning. Breaking news, my friends, and are you mad about this? Keir Starmer is set to make Sadik Khan a Lord. Jesus. He's also expected to offer the London Mayor a cabinet role following the May the 7th vote, presumably to keep him on side, presumably to watch and try and make sure the left don't get angry. Lord Khan, a man who hates everything about this country, having one of the oldest titles, Lord Khan in the cabinet. I'm off to the loo, back in 2. breaking news on Talk Breakfast. Two men, aged 47 and 45, have in the last hour been arrested in connection with the Golders Green arson attack. To me, symbolising absolutely a rise in anti-Semitism. Again, nothing from the government.
Breaking news. It's just a small matter. They have just an announcement saying transgender girls, i.e. boys, they must leave girl guiding by this September the 6th.
We are buying from Norway because they fully exploit their share of the North Sea oil and gas fields, and we don't. Alice in Wonderland nuts.
It's the UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:24. If you're a regular to the show, take stock, because my son will not go into school until he gets a mention. Good morning, Oliver William Robin Carr. Final day at school, my old son, before a month off on holiday. Have a great day. Rissy Roo's in the car. And then I've got a slight problem, because my teenage son's in the car, and if I mention him, he'll go, that wasn't cool. And if I say something nice, he'll say that wasn't cool. And if I don't mention him, so have a good day, H. Lovely, and the missus, of course, 8:24 0344 499 1000. You're waking up to the news. Oh, geez. Breaking news on Talk. Lord Khan. It could be a reality. Apparently, Keir Starmer is considering giving Sir Sadik another title. I mean, extraordinary, extraordinary. A spokesman for Downing Street says, no, this is merely speculation, but there are rumours rushing round Westminster that he'll not only be made a Lord, he'll be offered a cabinet role after May the 7th. This, again, a deliberately cynical attempt by Starmer to head off a plot on the left. Lord Khan, Mark in Selby, he cannot surely be considered for another title. The evidence so far is that Muslim rape gangs have clearly operated in London under Khan's watch. It's a powder keg. Khan must not be made a lord. Paul, for the love of God, no, this man has been a disgrace. His denial at a London council meeting regarding his answer to Muslim rape grounds was absolutely disgusting. You need to change the law. This is the final straw for so many. Ernie says, listening to Nadeem Zahawi, a really interesting thing. He said, has Starmer changed the rules on deleting messages since the Tory party was in power? Well. And Leslie, morning JK, knowing how many phones are swiped out of people's hands on the London streets, who in their right mind would walk along with their business government mobile phone in one hand and my personal one in the other? These are lies, more lies from the cabinet, allegedly. Oh, and this one, Brian Goodwin. I've just listened to the entire transcript of that 9-9 call to the police from Morgan McSweeney. Not once did he mention, I'm probably the most important government official. No, of course he didn't, Brian. He didn't manage to even know where he was. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Morning, Susie.
Morning, Joe. Susie from Hertfordshire. I think we need to call the Beth Rigby interview for what it is, and that is gaslighting. All this government know how to do is to gaslight. It's not our fault, it's their fault. It's continuous gaslighting. And I don't know how, as a country, we've got into this mess once again, where we're forced to have to put up with the most inadequate, irrelevant humans leading this country. It's horrendous. Something needs to happen. The British people are speaking, and we are saying loudly that this is not acceptable and that something has to change.
I've seen reaction. I haven't seen reaction like this in a long time. Rumours are abound in Westminster that Sadik Khan is to be made a Lord. He's also expected to be offered a cabinet role after the local elections. Sir Sadik Khan, the man who single-handedly destroyed London. Sharon, please, in the name of God, tell me this is not true. I can't. This is wrong. Graham in Sunderland. Jezza, Starmer is blatantly setting Khan up to be the next Prime Minister. My head has just exploded. This is completely wrong. Dee in Kent says this is all part of the plan to make Sadik Khan the next Prime Minister. Honestly, I hadn't even thought about that angle. I think I literally will have to give up. If Sadik Khan becomes the next Prime Minister, I'm going to go and sell deck chairs and ice creams on a beach somewhere near Bournemouth. 0344 499 1000. Was it yesterday in the Commons? A Tory MP, Harriet Cross, the MP for Gordon and Buchan, I hope I got the right Buchan, I'm not sure, in Scotland, My God, did she do well. She, like many of us, sort of believed that it would make really good sense, using we're 130 billion quid in debt, to use this asset we've got in the North Sea and drilling. Have a listen to Harriet Cross yesterday.
If they wanted these, they could approve these. Yeah. It's in their gift. They are the government who wanted, apparently, to be in power for that long because they wanted to be able to make these decisions. But the only decisions they're making at the moment for North East Scotland is the decision to close down the North Sea, no matter what they say otherwise, to see redundancies going up, to see investment going abroad, to see tax intake reducing. The skilled workforce of North East Scotland should be something that the whole of the UK treasures. Yeah. It is a vital asset. As is the North Sea, it's a vital asset. Any other country in the world would give anything to have the workers, the skills and the geology that we have off our east coast. But this government are not interested. They would much prefer to hit their renewables targets, their clean power targets, than support one of our most crucial industries.
Let's cross to Harriet. Harriet, good morning. How are you? You were cross, weren't you, waving that piece of paper? It was fantastic. Well done.
I didn't realise I was doing it until I saw it back afterwards. Everyone was like, don't get too close.
Harriet, we salute you. I've long been concerned that I obviously should be heading towards the old people's home because I keep doing this analogy, which I can give to you as an elected politician. I've got this house, see, and I've got these letters that keep coming to my house saying you owe 130 billion, but in my garden there's this gold underneath the grass, but because I don't want to upset the local council I won't take it out. But the people next door who come from Norway, they keep dipping their hands over the fence and taking my gold, and then I buy it off them for some it's barking mad. And you talked about it from a job point of view about the Scots local community that you said, but there isn't a level. There isn't a level in terms of interest payments, in terms of improving our social services, all the things, public services, works, jobs, wages. It's almost, to me, Harriet, it's almost treasonable. It doesn't make there's no sense. This ideology is mad.
No, you're completely right. It doesn't matter what angle you come at it from or how they try to justify it, or even if you give them the benefit of doubt and see or think that they're coming from one point of view. Nothing makes sense. There's 1,000 jobs a month being lost in the oil and gas sector, which is extraordinary. Many of those are up in North East Scotland, Aberdeenshire, Aberdeen, up where I am. There's £25 billion of tax being left. There's investment which is just not coming to the UK. Estimates show about £50 billion of investment, economic activity, much, much higher than that. And then, as you say, we just pay Norway to get out the same sea to bring it in here. We increase our LNG imports, which, if the government are concerned about emissions, have higher emissions. So it doesn't matter how you try to square the circle, it's completely impossible. It's Ed Miliband logic, and that's what we're all living under.
When you're there, I'm fascinated by this. When you're there as an elected representative of your constituents and you stand up and you look at Ed Miliband, or you put a question to Ed Miliband or somebody in his department, and you know, and I watch this and I think, but you're bankrupting Britain on the altar of an ideology that, as you quite rightly said, Harriet, doesn't actually work. So it's not a case of, you know, if we had to swallow this pain, because in the end, you know, we'd all be better off and we'd all be happier and the environment... But we're not 1% of emissions in the world because the rest of the world's concentrating on things that matter more. And you know, somebody once said to me, you should use this in the Commons, what happens when we get to net zero then? Does somebody go, well done, Great Britain, there's a medal, now we're setting you a new target? Because all I can see is this ridiculous attempt to achieve something, again, to look good, not that anybody cares, whilst destroying your own country still further. When you look at Miliband and you say that, what does he say? What's he like?
Well, firstly, I think he hopes he's going to get a statue. That's sort of what our assumption is, because it seems to be his one aim in life is to get to net zero no matter what. It doesn't matter how many jobs are lost, how many of our industries close down, how much we offshore our jobs or investment or emissions. It doesn't matter as long as the UK can say that they got there. And there was another example just last week with steel. They said that they're going to turn to arc furnaces rather than blast furnaces, which means our virgin steel production in the UK is going to go. But they said, but we would be the first G7 to have a green steel industry. who cares? I'd prefer that we actually had a steel capability rather than a green steel capability. So it cuts across the whole of the government. Every department just seems to be completely stuck in this ideology, but it has to be green, it has to be clean, it has to be net zero. It doesn't matter about the logic or the pragmatism or actually what's practical. That just seems to go by the wayside because Miliband, it seems, is running the show.
And when you look at the coverage of this subject, anybody who dares to question it, Richard Tyers calls it net stupid zero. You stood up yesterday and were fantastic about the drilling. You get called a denier. You get called... They look at you as if you're barking mad, and yet one puts it in pure fiscal terms, and it makes absolutely no sense. And you're right. I mean if that's, but I don't think they even understand what legacy is. You know, they always trot out, don't they, Harriet? Well, we've done a poll and 70% of people in the country are concerned about environmental issues. I bet if you said to 10 people, you worry about the environment, they go, yes. If you added the next question, which is, do you think we should bankrupt this country and screw ourselves into the ground simply on something that doesn't make any difference? They go, of course not. And here's the irony, and here's a question for you politically. Do you think part of this obsession is also to do with Labour's need to cut the Greens off at the pass? The Greens who, I mean, let's call it out for what it is, the heroin supporting mad people who no longer talk about tree hugging. All they talk about is the Muslim vote. I mean, I'm being completely honest, and I wonder whether a lot of this green madness is to try and find some of that space. I've no idea, because none of it makes sense to me.
No, I mean, there is certainly, I guess, a gap, if you want to call it that, which the Greens have moved out of, and which it seems to me anyway that Labour and the Lib Dems are fighting for, because the other parties are similarly sort of sucked into this. The Lib Dems support Labour in banning drilling from the North Sea. I don't know where they think we're going to get our energy from, but they don't want to get it from there.
Is that an official Liberal Democrat policy? Because try as I might, and I'm not being disrespectful, we ask all parties to come on here. He's always dressing up and doing a thing. He never wants to come on, Ed Davey, just because I don't think anybody knows what the Liberal Democrats stand for, genuinely.
In that same debate, I asked their energy spokesperson in a very, very straightforward, very simple question, do the Lib Dems support the ban of new licences in the North Sea? And she said yes. So no, they don't support the North Sea. They don't support domestic oil and gas production. They prefer imports, same as Labour.
Final question, and please, will you come on again? Why are you not on the front bench, by the way? You should be. Without any shadow of a doubt. I'm going to tell better not. Listen, final question, and this is true. How do you react? I mean, I've got hundreds, thousands of people who are literally head-banging the wall right now. Rumours abound in Westminster that Keir Starmer is set to make Sadik Khan a lord and could offer him a cabinet post because, as somebody just said, so he's bringing in Khan but not Burnham. Says it all, really. What's your response, Harriet?
It's extraordinary. I saw that this morning and it felt like April Fool's Day had come a week early, and it's a perfect example of failing upwards. I mean, crime in London, transport in London are not exactly something you'd say are soaring ahead under a great mayor. So why would you give him more responsibility?
And a man who patently refuses to even have a discussion with the Conservative leader of the London Assembly about rape gangs in the capital, refuses to have it. It's absolutely brilliant to have you on. Please come on again. Absolutely fantastic, and keep the fight going, even if you are called a denier like the rest of us. Harriet Scott. No, Harriet Cross. Harriet Scott, that's a DJ. Never mind. Conservative MP for Gordon. Is it Buchan or Buchan? Would anybody get to the bottom of that? She's gone. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Ellie.
Hi, Jezza. Keir Starmer. Firstly, I'm really surprised that Beth Rigby was so nice to him, considering he was so awful to her about a year ago and nearly made her cry, if you remember that. And secondly, he hates Britain, and the whole point of doing all this is he wants us back in Europe, and he wants to say, we need the European army, so we have to join Europe. So that's why he's done all this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Gotta say, Kev calling it correctly every afternoon is sounding great on Drive. Back 4 o'clock this afternoon. He doesn't know back, neither do I. Can I just make a point? This breaking news, which is, I've never seen reaction like this. Sir Keir Starmer is potentially thinking of making Sadik Khan a Lord and offering him a cabinet role after May the 7th. There are people up in arms about this. Tony, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Tony from Enfield. Great show. I just listened to one of your other callers' voicemails that they sent in. Surely if the Prime Minister was setting up Khan to be the next PM of the Labour Party, that would have to go through the Labour membership, wouldn't it? And I don't ever recall hearing or seeing anything about Khan being popular with the membership. I don't think that will happen personally, but you never know. Stranger things have happened.
Honestly, 87222, I'm going to serve notice. If Sadiq Khan becomes the Prime Minister of this country, I'm giving up. Perhaps Starmer giving Khan a lordship is laying the ground to resign, looking after his mate, says Bill. If Starmer makes Khan a lord and a government minister, it means he can stand as a candidate for PM with all the people flooding in. That is what they're up to. It stinks, this whole thing. Hello to David. He says, is that correct, that Khan is to be made a lord? He's only just been made a sir. Is this because Starmer has stopped the investigation on rape gangs and he's let more criminals in because he won't stop the boat? This smells dirty to me. Two left-wing mates together. Just got a doctor's appointment, says Jeff in Dorset, for the 14th of April next year. Paul, this is what makes Lords a farce. The Labour are all about protecting themselves and stuff the British people. Paul's in Australia. My God, we've been to Botswana, Australia and Riyadh this morning. Hello to Adam. We'll go to Leafy, Surrey. Khan being elevated the Lord is yet another nail in the coffin for the special relationship. You have a terrible mayor. Trump despises Khan. This proves yet again that Starmer hasn't got a clue about the consequences of his actions. It's not just the consequences of his actions. The man's utterly, utterly incompetent. He'd never be interviewed by anybody that he can't... I mean, I'll tell you actually just very quickly, this is how good the team here are. Do you remember, you know, that the leader of the London Assembly, Susan Hall, she's the one who said, are there rape gangs? And he wouldn't answer. She's on the show in the next hour. And Layla Cunningham, we're going to get on, who's the Reform candidate to be Mayor of London. It does beg the question, and this is interesting from Stephen Beckenham, I hope the Khan is made a Lord. He won't then be made London Mayor again, as he cannot hold both positions, and Labour won't be winning the next election. I'd love to hear from Layla Cunningham, because that might mean that he can't stand. Carl's in Richmond. If you do go and sell deck chairs on a beach on the south coast, Jez, you could perhaps, before you leave, ask the government to pay you to give them to arriving migrants to support PM Lord Khan's increase in the migrant plan. That would be, I mean, listen, any morality I've gone if I can sell more deck chairs. I mean, I don't care. I'll do that. It's 21 minutes. No, it's not. It's 20 minutes to 9 o'clock. I've got to take a breath and salute somebody who I have just about the most respect for out of anybody that ever comes on this show. News today that the Olympics have decided to ban transgender athletes from competing in women's sport. Like many of you, I was like, absolutely, this is utterly, utterly ludicrous. But almost a lone voice in this fight for years has been the legend that is Sharon Davis, MBE. Good morning, madam. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. What a morning, eh? What a lot of news coming at us. It's like this. Oh.
Lord Khan, Sharon. I can't. But listen.
You know, that means I'm going to be staring at him across the benches, right?
Oh, dear. I'm looking forward to Trump's reaction, as are many others. Sharon, I got to say, you deserve such credit for what has been decided, which is common sense today. Olympics have announced a transgender ban in all women's sports. Just tell us your reaction to this news.
Yeah, I mean, the headline should say, really, you know, the Olympics have decided to ban males from female sport. I mean, that is what it is, you know, which is an insane position. And all morning I've been listening to you guys, and everything is about just bringing back basic common sense, drilling for our own oil instead of buying off our neighbours. I mean, none of this makes any sense, does it? And this has never made sense. I mean, it all started really at the end of the 90s when the IOC asked their female athletes if they wanted to keep sex screening in place, and 98%, were for it. 80% said absolutely, and they totally ignored all women and just removed it. And then in 2015, they literally turned around and said, officially, there's no difference between male and female performance. So if men want to identify as women, well, then that's absolutely fine. And we're all going, what, every record, every result ever doesn't show that there's obviously a biological difference. It's just extraordinary how disposable women's sport was. And I hope this makes a huge difference, but it's really important that it works all the way down. We cannot just protect elite females and not protect grassroots or juniors or recreational, because all women and girls are worthy of fair sport, not just the very best ones.
Do you feel vindicated?
Yeah, but it's been a hard journey. It's been 10 years, like you said, and for 10 years, I mean, my work has suffered massively. My kids have had death threats, I mean, it has been really, really hard. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Because for me, it was all about, could I live with myself if I didn't? And my generation were very much affected by the East German debacle, and that was allowed to go on for 20 years. So the IOC are the ones to blame in all of this. To say that they're now relying on the medical science, well, medical science hasn't changed. It was exactly the same 10 years ago.
I remember us speaking about this, and I don't know the names, but do you remember that boxer that won gold? There she is. How about that? Yeah. I remember talking to you about this, and I remember this lady, I think this is her from Italy, had trained for 4 years. She's in the semi-finals of the Olympics, having, got to that elite position. And she said after 40 seconds, she sat on a stool. She said she'd never been hit harder in her life. She couldn't bear it. The pain was unbearable and her dream was over. And I never could understand the fairness, this bizarre, if you like, attempt to try and placate. I don't know. It's the same ideology, Sharon, that says, I've got teenage kids, right? I'm sorry, I don't care if this upsets anybody. I don't want my daughters going into a changing room where a man with a penis, whether he's got a wig on or a dress, is changing. To me, that is not common sense any more than that boxer in a female. And what was that, Carla Semenya, isn't it? That she could run.
Semenya, yeah.
She can run an hour quicker than anybody. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's safeguarding, isn't it, as well? Yeah. This is about safeguarding women and girls, and we know that bad rules will be taken advantage of by bad men. That is what actually happens. So therefore, women and girls need to be a priority, and whether that's fairness or whether that's safety in changing rooms, and women and girls will just exclude themselves. If they think they're going to be in danger, they will remove themselves. So if we're genuinely talking about nurturing, female participation, which we always struggle to maintain, then we have to put them as a priority. I mean, this is DSD athletes, so this is something, that's Casa Semenya. I mean, the women's 800 in the Rio Olympics, the first female was fourth and didn't get on the podium.
I mean, wherever you are this morning, just listen to what Sharon just said. In an Olympic final, the first female, so not men with penises who were going through whatever, was fourth. She should have won the gold medal. I mean, listen, he'll come in for lots of criticism, but it was one of the strongest things that I supported Donald Trump on when he stood up. There are two sexes and that's it. You've always been very strong on it about how it takes away opportunity. It takes away, the chance of success when you've put that much effort in. I just want to go back to what you said, if you're all right with it, but death threats to your kids.
Yeah, well, that's trans activism for you. We know that, right? It's misogyny. It's just misogyny in plain sight. And these men were given the right to threaten, physically threaten. Nothing was done. I mean, the day after Charlie Kirk was killed, there was a T-shirt produced by Susie Green, and it literally had my name on a T-shirt saying "dead" across it in a line. And I took it to the police station here in Wiltshire, and they ignored it. They passed it on up to Yorkshire somewhere or other. Nothing was done about it. Can you imagine the other way around if that had been the case? It's been the misogyny that's been allowed to actually happen against women, just literally standing up for women's rights and women's safeguarding, has been extraordinary. And it's been successive governments. I mean, it's not this government, but they are the worst. And we had the Supreme Court ruling, which was nearly a year. Next month it will be a year. And very little has changed, even though the law has made it very clear that in the Equality Act, sex means biological sex. So The Women's Sports Union, which myself and Tracy Edwards set up last year, we're intending to start taking legal action next month, because obviously now after this ruling, it's been made very clear by the IOC, you know, that there is a biological difference and it is unfair. And obviously we've got the Supreme Court ruling. So we have got to make sure that our governing bodies and our local leisure centres, they apply by the law.
Honestly, and I'm not just saying it, you deserve the biggest amount of credit, and I know that people listening and watching this will just be nodding, and because it is common sense. It doesn't make any sense to anybody that this crap, excuse my French, has been allowed to continue.
Jeremy, let me give you a really interesting statistic, right? It's an American statistic, but 50% of all American CEOs that are females have come through sport. So by removing those, you know, girls' opportunities, we're telling them they're not worthy, and we're taking away their confidence and their resilience and all the things that they need to be successful in the world that we live in. And that's really important, you know, and some of the stuff that I want to do in the House of Lords is all about bringing back resilience to our kids and trying to get them fitter and healthier and just more able to deal with life, because life is quite tough.
You could be joined, as we said, as we started in the House of Lords, by Sadik Khan. How do they treat you in the House of Lords?
Do you know what? They're actually really nice. I mean, I think the House of Lords is slightly less cutthroat than the House of Commons, you know, and then there's a tremendous amount of people in there that have worked incredibly hard for many years to be successful in their careers. Some that have maybe not and have just know the right people.
And listen, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you, Dame Shah, how's the food in the canteen in the House of Lords?
Their staff are amazing.
No, wrong answer, Davis. Wrong answer, Davis. Wrong answer. How's the food?
The food's okay. I mean, I get a great toasted cheese sandwich and a cup of tea. I'm quite happy.
We love you. Listen, great work. Totally vindicated, and you deserve such plaudits. Sharon Davis, thank you so much indeed. On the day that the Olympics have decided, quite rightly, to ban trans athletes from taking part in women's sports. That's men who are strong with penises. Did you hear what she just said in the Olympics in a race? The top 3 were all men, and the top woman in the world came forth. Ludicrous madness. Go on, have a go at me, I'm sure you will. You are responding in your droves to the news that Westminster is flooded with rumours this morning that Sadik Khan is going to be offered be made a lord by Starmer, who wants to bring him into his cabinet. Oh my God. Caroline, good morning.
Hi, Jeremy. I'm having a heart attack listening to the possibility of Sadik Khan becoming Lord and possibly PM, which I've said for a while, that's his goal. If that happens, I'm 100% leaving the country. This is beyond comprehension, and the corruption in this country with this government is beyond off the scale. I'm incredibly depressed. He is the most awful person ever. Great show. Thanks, Jeremy.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Breakfast on until 10. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. If it's the stolen phone, if it's the mea culpa of Starmer or Khan being maybe a lord, there's only one man on the Tory side to ask. It's the Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party. Are we going to arrest you? You've got a Union Jack flag. Morning, Matty Vickers.
Hey up, Jezza, how's it going?
Well, now, I need to do this in the right way. Have you got your phone?
I have got my phone, still here. I've got all the messages. Can be held to account.
That story's got more holes than a Swiss cheese. Did you see the appalling mea culpa that Starmer tried to do with Beth Rigby yesterday?
It's just pathetic, isn't it? I mean, the entire story with this Mandelson appointment, it started, it rolled on, and then we saw Kemi hold him to account, asking him to publish all of the material behind it. He was going to get his own MPs to walk through a lobby to vote against it, ended up caving in on that. And then last week, we hear that he couldn't. The reason all this happened is because Mandelson lied to him. By the sounds of things, he never ever spoke to Mandelson.
No.
Before he appointed him. He was asked 4 times, refused to say it. And now, very conveniently, it turns out someone's phone was stolen.
Do you not believe Morgan McSweeney's phone was stolen then, Matt Vickers?
Oh, it would be very, very helpful to them if it has been stolen, but I just find it very difficult to...
He didn't know where he was. He didn't mention he was a government offender. There's so much to this story, and Kemi's been on it. The mea culpa, though, and there's a serious side to this. You've got the brass neck Starmer to sit there and get misty-eyed and talk, and lots of people have said this about victims and girls and women. What about the rape gang victims in the north, in the areas you dare not have an inquiry on? That's the disgrace from that, Matt.
He says he beats himself up about it. I think it's probably just guilt, actually. Guilt that he allowed...
He said he was hard on himself. Are you hard on yourself, Matty Vickers?
He should be very, very hard on himself. I think he just feels guilty, actually. I think that's what it is. This guy, he is appointed to the highest office in the land, super diplomatic post, much prestige, representing us to our biggest partner, a man with links to a paedophile, and he knew it. It's just wrong. It's disgusting.
Has anybody tried ringing the phone that's stolen to see if actually somebody answers it, though? Because I've had cabbies shouting at me going, Jez, it's not in my cab. I mean, honestly, that whole thing. But now, I want you to be calm. I don't know why you've got a red tie on. What's the matter with you, man? Are you about to...
Well, you've got to mix it up sometimes.
Right. Breaking news this hour that Keir Starmer is thinking about making Sadik Khan a lord and is expected to offer the London Mayor a cabinet role following the May the 7th vote. I've never seen an outpouring of such anger from my viewers and listeners. Your response from the Tory party, Matt?
This is the man who's allowed phone theft to get out of control in London, who's allowed the streets of London to become absolutely adrift with theft and crime, who's doing the most appalling job of running our capital city, and now he's going to be awarded for it. But it talks to people's confidence in politics, in Parliament, that this Prime Minister, who was daft enough to appoint Mandelson as our US ambassador, will be daft enough probably to appoint Lord Khan. Lord Kyle.
I like that, Lord Kyle. Darren Meehan says Starmer owes Khan a favour because he's managed to allow the rise of phone thefts even in the capital, which is why he's going to make him a law. But I'm going to go further. We've only got 2 minutes. The rise of the Green Party, who made no secret that they based their win on Gorton and Denton on the Muslim vote, surely has sent shockwaves through Labour, whose vote is collapsing. I was talking to John Curtis yesterday. I bet you any money this is a cynical ploy. This is all about sectarian voting. That's how devious I think this man is.
I think there's definitely a valid argument in that. I think there's also a valid argument in the idea that this is all about leadership potential and who is on whose side and what horse trading goes on to keep Angela Rayner in the box and to keep Wes Streeton in the box. It just seems very, very, very difficult to see why anybody would think that Khan should become a member of the House of Lords.
Feeling Great Yarmouth says, why doesn't he make him the American ambassador? I'd love to see that. We're waiting for Donald Trump's response. He's a terrible mayor. Can you imagine? I mean, is this two fingers to Donald Trump? The whole thing, though, on a serious note, when this country is creaking under expensive bills and a cost of living crisis, it's all now. Every story is about the incompetence of this government and this man, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we've got the disaster this morning where we're being mocked for our warships. The reality is we're paying record levels of tax. We're getting less police on the streets. We aren't investing what we need to invest in defence. Everything's going to hell in a handcart because all they're spending the money on is welfare. 5,000 people a day signing up to incapacity benefits. It's doubled since Labour came to office. That's where all the money's going. As a result, we're all being taxed to death. Businesses are going to the wall. It's a disaster, and one man is responsible for it all.
If Sadik Khan becomes a cabinet minister, I'm off to sell deck chairs and ice creams on the beach. You can come with me. It's always a pleasure, Matty, to have you on. Have a good weekend. Matt Vickers, MP, Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, almost 9 o'clock. In the next hour, we'll respond to that Khan news with the leader of the Conservatives in the London Assembly and mayoral candidate Layla Cunningham from Reform. News at 9 is now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 9. We're here until 10 o'clock, and good Lord, have we got a rammed final hour. Wherever you are, there's only 3 stories that are dominating the world. The first is the mystery disappearing phone of Morgan McSweeney. It was lost, stolen 3 days before an investigation into the messages that he might or might not have shared with Peter Mandelson. It was lost in a road that wasn't in London where he said it was in London. It didn't have its tracker on, weirdly. It didn't have it. All its messages had disappeared, and he didn't mention that he was indeed the second most powerful man in England. Do you know what Alan makes of this? Morning, Al.
Hi, JK. Big Al from Swansea, yeah? Listen, Barry, this McSweeney farce. Best way, many years ago, you done that brilliant programme and you had lie detector tests. Get Sweeney in, sit him down and ask him some questions. And for that matter, get Starmer in as well. We'll get the popcorn and we'll watch the lies, the web of lies unfurl. And as for Starmer's wig, I got a spare mop head in my kitchen. If you want to borrow that, no worries. Every day, buddy, you just couldn't make it up. Keep up a great show. Shara.
Shara. It's always good to have Christian's dad on. Can you imagine that? We asked you, Morgan McSweeney, did you have your phone stolen in London? You said you did. Never mind. It was a long time ago. Also, Keir Starmer last night. I don't know if you saw this. Do you remember Prince Andrew and the woking I went to pizza, the sweaty interview in Newsnight that finished him? He did this sort of mea culpa. Oh, I'm sorry. And he basically said, nobody should be hard on me about the mistakes I've made with Mandelson. Nobody is harder on me than I am on myself, which summons up terrible images. This was him last night with Beth Rigby, who maybe should have said, your sudden sympathy for victims. What about the ones that were raped in the north of England, the British girls? No comment on them, by the way.
Nobody has been harder on me in relation to the mistake I made there than me. And I'll tell you for why. I've spent years trying to deal with violence against women and girls. And as I look back at it now and the mistake I made, I've been really hard on myself. In the immediate days after this all came out, I was particularly hard on myself. So, yeah, everybody else was criticising, I guess, all that. But nobody was criticising me more than myself. And I hate the fact I made that mistake. And I dwell on it. I beat myself up about it. It's certainly not a mistake I'd ever repeat. But there's no criticism anybody else can level at me that will be as harsh as the criticism I've dished out for myself.
And it might sound harsh of me to say this when he's so honest and open, but no apology to the pensioners, the waspy women, the farmers. No apology to the white British girls who were raped and whose lives were ruined in the north of England, because he won't have an inquiry. And just on the top of those two stories, I thought, well, we'll just meander nicely to 10 o'clock. But no, an hour ago, the big news story of the day. Keir Starmer, this is just ludicrous, is, according to the Financial Times, set to make Sadik Khan a Lord, and after the May the 7th local elections will be offering him a cabinet post. Most of you have gone utterly ballistic. Morning, Jay.
Morning, Jez. A fantastic show. You'd have thought Starmer would have learnt by now, wouldn't you? You know, after the Mandelson stuff and the fact that Mr. Khan keeps denying that there's grooming gangs in London and it doesn't exist. Apparently, when there's evidence, it does, allegedly. Now, if he gives him this cabinet role and it comes out in the next year, in the next 3 years, the next 5 years, does that mean Mr. Starmer then could potentially be brought to justice himself? Because he seems to be giving roles to people that are doing wrong to the public.
Couldn't agree more. We'd love your comments this hour. 0344 499 1000. Mick in Andover. I want to do some of these. You're so kind. Keir Starmer should stop beating himself up over Mandelson. There's a mile-long queue to do it for him. Don says, morning, Jez. Why don't the authorities track McSweeney's walk through London? Then you might find out whereabouts on the Thames that his phone's been thrown into. Dave's in Dorset. What in the name of the Lord has Khan done to deserve a lordship? Stephen in London. All this disbelief. Khan loves it. He thrives on it. He loves the hate and the outrage. It's what makes that individual tick. MG from Staffordshire. Sharon Davis is amazing. Was an inspiration to us youngsters in the 80s. If it wasn't for her, I would wish the House of Lords is abolished after Sadiq Khan's appointment. Finally, Mr. Angry in Coventry. If that hideous Khan ever became Prime Minister, Trump and America would invade us, which indeed could be a good thing. 8 minutes past 9. A man who is never frightened to make his opinions known. Delighted to have him on. Former Deputy Leader of Reform, now on his own. Ben Habib, in front of that lovely red thing. We've so much to talk about this morning, Ben.
Lord Khan. It's a bit like the Wrath of Khan from Star Trek. Do you remember Star Trek?
Yeah, I do.
Was he a Klingon? I think Lord Khan was a Klingon.
You know what you do with Klingons, don't you? But listen, on a
you flush them down the loo.
Quite right, Ben. Listen, on a serious note here.
Yeah.
Already, apart from the outrage from a man who refuses to accept that there are grooming gangs in London, wouldn't answer that question of Susan Hall, the leader of the Conservatives in the Assembly, who will be on this hour. This is a man who, you know, he's so divisive. But I'm sat here and people are messaging me saying there's only one answer to this, and this is Starmer trying to buy back the Muslim vote that is heading towards the Green Party. Your response to that?
100%. The Muslim vote has now become perhaps the most important vote in the United Kingdom for two reasons. One, it is increasingly a sizable vote, but two, it votes. Unlike the vast majority of other people who might say they would vote Tory or vote Reform or whatever party, actually the Muslim vote come out because of the arrangements that they have amongst themselves. They come out and they vote. They are therefore a very, very important part of the electorate for those who are currying their favour. And Starmer is petrified that he's lost that vote to the Greens. You know, we say Reform's at 25 to 30%, Greens at 23 to 27, whatever the percentages are. But the reality is, if you weight those polling numbers by the propensity of those who've been polled to vote, the Greens are miles ahead of Reform. The Greens are miles ahead of Labour because they've got the Muslim vote. And this is fast becoming the most important electoral mathematical equation that needs to be balanced for the various parties. How do they get into power, even if they're polling very high? How do they do it, given the apathy of the average voter and the propensity of the Muslims to vote?
I completely agree, which is why it is... You can look at it on a moral level. I've always said, don't moan and bitch about anything if you're not prepared to vote. But actually, with elections approaching nationally in 3 years, hopefully sooner, I don't think there's ever been a more important time for you to exercise your democratic right, even if you're not somebody that's inspired to do so. I think you owe it to your country, and I do think it's a massive, massive moment. The Khan rumour, Downing Street aren't denying it. His office won't say anything. I mean, as a man, he has failed patently in London. There is more crime, whether it's phone thefts or stabbings. This city is not what it was, and people are open-mouthed, Ben, that you can be given a leg up for being that incompetent.
Yeah, and there isn't a single divisive policy on which this man hasn't jumped in order to promote himself, including making arguments for reparations during the slave trade, talking against our history, denouncing our national heroes, wishing to tear down our statues. He stands against the very institution to which he now seems to be on the verge of being elevated. This man would abolish the House of Lords left to his own devices. He's anti-British. But, you know, so is Starmer. So is the vast majority of the Labour Party. They love the trappings of office. They love the influence it gives them, the money it gives them, but they're all anti-British. It's a joke that he was made a knight, and now to be elevated to a peer of the realm, a realm which he holds in contempt. We know that because he said it. He said so many times he hates the British Empire, so many times he hates our past. Well, what is the House of Lords if not the present-day context of our great past? And yet he's prepared to put his filthy little backside on one of those red seats. It's disgusting, frankly. It's disgusting, Jeremy, the way our system is used and abused by these people.
Terry in Birmingham says, does Ben agree with me that this is another example of Starmer's scorched earth policy in action big style?
Absolutely. Starmer sits there all contrite, saying that, no one beats himself up more over the Mandelson affair than he beats himself up. But actually, all the while, he's gaslighting the British people on every single issue, including Mandelson. He told us back in September, if I can just go to Mandelson for a second. He told us back in September that Mandelson had lied to him. And now we know that actually Jonathan Powell, senior members of the Cabinet Office, had warned Starmer about Mandelson's association with Epstein, and that if he insisted on appointing him, it would cause serious reputational damage for the Prime Minister, and on the Prime Minister's head, therefore, be it. And against that advice, he went forward. So yes, it is extremely concerning that McSweeney's phone has actually gone missing, but Starmer has already admitted that he's lied to Parliament over this issue.
It is. I mean, I had Dan Hodges on from the Mail. He and Guy Adams are doing fantastic work. They smell blood and they won't let go of this. He says that he had good knowledge and a source. He said this on the show yesterday, that when they broke for that recess last summer between September and October, there was total panic within the government, within Number 10, that what would happen if those messages were ever found. Now, I'm not able to say definitively, but it's too fishy. It's got more holes than a Swiss cheese. I've been saying it for the last 24 hours, and then we wake up this morning. Yesterday we woke up, Ben, and heard that the Cabinet Office had found some of the messages. Then we're harking back to 3 weeks ago when they're going to decide which ones to release. This morning, Mandelson wasn't even asked to give his messages. This utterly stinks. And whether we can sit here and say, listen, you're duplicitous, we don't believe you. The truth is, yet again, and this is what gets me, these people in power are thinking that the electorate can't see this, doesn't see through the BS. Increasingly, like never before in our lifetimes, people see straight through it, Ben.
Absolutely. They hold the electorate in contempt. I mean, we've been held in contempt for the entire period that I got into politics. One of the reasons I'm in politics is the contempt with which the vote to leave the European Union was given by those in authority. And I don't know if you've noticed, Jeremy, this is a digression, but it's really on point. The protective barriers around Parliament have done nothing other than increase over the last 20 to 30 years. There used to be no protective barriers around Parliament. Now there is a 9-foot-tall metal fence protecting the building. Why? Because they stand in opposition to the people. They're feeling threatened by the people because they have abused the people repeatedly. They fear that the people may do something to Parliament. That was never the case in the past. You'll remember from the 80s, you could walk right up to the Parliament buildings. Then we had some IRA terrorism that put some barricades up. Then we had a fence. Then we had all those bollards stopping traffic down Westminster. And now they've got a 9-foot-tall metal fence. That's because people like Starmer and his predecessors hold the British people in contempt. They promise us one thing, they deliver the other. They lie to us. They defraud us. They take our money. They blow it on their personal jaunts. They blow it on their families. They couldn't care less. When Starmer says he beats himself up, if he feels so badly about Mandelson, why hasn't he resigned? As a point of principle, he should fall on his sword and say, I made a huge mistake. No one beats themselves up more than me, and I'm going to give up my position because it's a disaster. Again, 30 years ago, a politician half as senior as Starmer would have fallen on their sword for a mistake a fifth the size of the one Starmer's
and
made.
with respect, jumping in, what he did and why he's having... A lot of people will say to me outside the building, they go, you do go for Starmer. I'll tell you why. Because he quite rightly, and I didn't think so at the time, aimed his target at Boris Johnson and would not let go until he forced him out of office. He talked about lost messages. He talked about lying to the House. He talked about nose in the trough. He talked about this, that and the other. And what is so massively hypocritical and has come home to bite him on the backside is, Ben, that this lot, I'm not making... are probably even worse. And
they are worse.
Do you know, I always go back to...
They are worse. Bring back Boris.
Yeah, no, do you know, I always go back to...
That was a joke.
No, I know. I go back to a comment, and Christian will go, oh, my God, I had a quite well-known court case, and I had a KC. who was fantastic. And about 3 weeks, a year and a half ago when it finished, I rang him and I said, where are you? And he said, I'm at the Labour Party conference. And I said, what are you doing there? And he went, Jess, I'm the best defamation KC in England. My main clients are politicians. And I went, what, of all sides? And he said, yes, and this might offend a few, but it doesn't offend me. I said, what's the difference between the Labour people that want your services and the Conservatives? He said, the Conservatives are into cocaine and rent boys, and Labour are simply interested in only lining their own pockets of money. And I just think that's a really good analogy.
Neither is very encouraging for the electorate, is it?
No. And just to finish on that, mate, where do we go? We've got 3 more years of this duplicity.
Yeah, well, we've got to make very, very solid plans to make sure that the next election is won by a pro-British party that has all the policies absolutely ready to do a 180-degree change in direction in the way this country is governed. We've got to clear out these monkeys that are sitting on those green seats, and many, many, many of the monkeys sitting on the red seats, and replace them with people who actually care about this country and are capable, trustworthy, and hardworking. That's what we need. It's a simple thing we need to achieve. It'll be very, very difficult to do it, but it's simple.
Ben, always a pleasure, never a chore. Love having you on I made you laugh. Ben Habib, leader of Advanced UK, 9:20. You are apoplectic about the news breaking in the last hour that potentially Sir Sadik could become Lord Khan and he could end up in the cabinet. Morning, Liz.
Hi, Jeremy. This is Liz from Flamborough. I just heard the news, just put the TV on, and all this guff about Keir Starmer making Sadik Khan Lord is frightening. The man is now truly insane. The men with white coats should be coming to take him away, because this is the craziest thing he's ever come up with. There's nothing more to say. Take the man away. Lock him up in a padded cell somewhere. Get rid of him. That's it for now. Thanks. Good show. Bye.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:23. Alex Phillips in for Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10 o'clock. Ahead of that, we will give you all the response to the three main news stories of the day. The phone that cannot be found of Morgan McSweeney. We're out there looking. Cabbies are looking. Everybody's looking. We're thinking of dredging the Thames. I mean, I'm not saying it was thrown in there, but that could happen. We're going to try and make that happen. We're not going to speak to the London Mayor. Because the breaking... Well, we've also got, obviously, Starmer. I'm sorry, nobody beats himself up more than me. Tried telling that to an 8-year-old that got raped in Bradford. But the big breaking news is Lord Khan is a possibility. So Sadik is set to be made a Lord and to be given a role in the cabinet. Is breaking news. I've never known such apoplectic madness. Dan, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Dan from Bedfordshire here. So Sadik Khan's going to become a Lord. What next? Hugh Edwards, Communications Secretary? My God, this man is an imbecile. He is so out of touch with British public. It is unbelievable.
Couldn't agree more. You lot are mad. Nikki in Slough says, cannot we, the British people, take this bloody government to the ECHR as our human rights are being taken away? Tony Marchwood, Khan not answering questions about grooming gangs in London was him practising for Prime Minister's question time when his mate Starmer passes him the reins. James, Starmer is going to appoint Khan as a minister. Is this the same Starmer that said this over Cameron's appointment to Sunak's cabinet? During Prime Minister's questions, Sakir said, the Prime Minister obviously thinks so little of his own MPs that he had to peel David Cameron away from his 7-year exile in a shepherd's hut and make him Foreign Secretary. The man is a complete hypocrite. Stuart, morning, Jez. He beat himself. If he'd let us all know, we'd have done it for him, says Stuart Hales Owen. Jezza, I like Matt Vitters, but but he's wrong about Starmer. Starmer doesn't do guilt. His hubris is off the scale. When I heard his Rigby interview, I felt like vomiting. The disingenuousness is stratospheric. Morning, Jez. Khan a Lord. I agree with some of your callers about this being all a set-up for PM, but by the grace of God, it could backfire spectacularly, because not only would Khan join the rest of them out of political life, but he won't be my mayor either. We're delighted to be joined now by a lady who, when my producers rang her up half an hour ago, said, is that a bloody April Fool? The lady who tried to get an answer from Sadik Khan in the Assembly, the leader of the Conservative group there. Susan Hall, a very good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
If this is true, this Financial Times rumour, you must be more respectful in future. You'll have to say, Lord Khan, can I ask you a question? Your response, Susan Hall.
I saw it on X early this morning and I thought, well, obviously that's a joke. I really didn't take it seriously. And then I saw that the FT was saying it, and I thought, oh, good God, this can't be right. I mean, I do despair. What on earth are the British public going to think?
I'll tell you what the British public will think, and you know, Susan, a lot of people that tune in here love the honesty. One or two people go, really? I'm allowed to give my opinion. It's an opinion-based radio and television station. I believe that this is an absolutely cynical act by Starmer, OK, to negate the impact of the Green Party's rise, which they have unashamedly admitted is down to procuring the Muslim vote. I genuinely believe that that is a criticism that is entirely possible to be levelled at Starmer and this news this morning.
I don't know what he's thinking. I mean, if it's true, and we haven't had confirmation that it's true.
They haven't denied it, Susan. They haven't denied it.
No, I know, and that makes it even more worrying. I mean, the mayor is supposed to be running this beautiful city, London, with a £24 billion budget. He hasn't got time to do anything else. If he does go into the Lords, then the only hope we have is that he would then resign and not be mayor, and we'll have another mayoral contest. But I suspect he wouldn't. He'd keep that, go into the Lords. I mean, it could be the fact that Keir Starmer knows that Khan wants to be the PM, and it might be a way of getting him out of the way, because if you're in the Lords, you can't be PM.
That's an interesting analogy. I hadn't thought about that one from Susan Hull. Oh, give him a lordship.
Yeah.
Can you not be? You can't be Prime Minister if you're the Lord in the Lords, no? Oh, because you've got to be in the Commons.
No, you've got to be in the Commons. Now you've made me think, but no, I'm sure that's right. So it would be a way of getting rid of another person that wants his job.
Maybe you see, I missed that. Maybe that's really clever because we've checked it. You're absolutely right, but also one thing's for sure: Sadik Khan, he'll tell me I'm wrong. Would he win an election? I can't see him winning it. Well, maybe in London he would. Would he win a seat in London?
I don't know. I think from knocking on doors, which obviously I'm a politician, that's what we're doing now. We've got the locals. The Labour vote seems to have collapsed. And you're right, the Labour vote is going to the Greens. And I have to say, on your programme, I think the Greens are really dangerous.
Oh, you don't need to worry about that. I mean, I said in Gorton and Denton, any other party should have grabbed a distraught mother whose son has died from a heroin addiction delivered by drug dealers who infiltrate this country, and I'd have knocked on every door. This is a party that wants to legalise heroin, give up our weapons, thinks it can get on a plane and go to Russia, shake Putin's hand because he's a decent man. He's a joke, Dave Polanski.
Yeah, don't forget, I work with them on the Assembly. I mean, they've gone from tree huggers and environmentalists to something quite different. And whilst we laugh and in political terms, we think, well, they'll take votes away from Labour. Of course they were. I'm afraid this is all too serious. And I feel sorry for the British public. I mean, I know politicians have got, really bad reputations, and in many cases they deserve it. But there are a lot of us out there that genuinely care, that genuinely want to make a difference. And these clowns are tarring us all with the same brush. They're money-grabbing. Keir Starmer is literally the worst PM I've ever known. And Sadik Khan doesn't love London. If you look at Ken Livingstone, he loved London. So did Boris. They both had their flaws. They both had their positive sides. So I'm not being political. Sadik Khan doesn't love London. He loves being driven around all the time. In fact, when I was standing for mayor, the one question he put to me is, if you become mayor, could I still have my police escort and cars? I mean, but, what about London? I'm a London politician. I love London. I want the best for Londoners. Well, the Lord Khan, for goodness sake, he cannot do that.
It's very interesting, though. We before you came on, we're thinking, is this to cut off the Muslim vote? Is this jobs for the boys? Is this a plan? But you're dead right. It could be Starmer being clever. Put one of the main protagonists that want your job into the House of Lords, meaning he can't stand to be leader. Give him one of those jobs in the cabinet that you can put a lord in, like Cameron. Keep him quiet. You've said no to Andy Burnham, but let's bring it to Keir Starmer. Did you see the Mea Culpa interview on Sky News with Beth Rigby?
No, I didn't. I've seen little clips of it.
Let me play, because I'd like you to just be sincere here, Susan. He really is very apologetic for the mistake he made, and he wanted you all to know that he really cares about young girls. Have a listen.
Nobody has been harder on me in relation to the mistake I made there than me. And I'll tell you for why. I've spent years trying to deal with violence against women and girls. And as I look back at it now and the mistake I make, I've been really hard on myself. In the immediate days after this all came out, I was particularly hard on myself. So, yeah, everybody else was criticising, I guess, all that. But nobody was criticising me more than myself. And I hate the fact I made that mistake. And I dwell on it. I beat myself up about it. It's certainly not a mistake I'd ever repeat. But there's no criticism anybody else can level at me that will be as harsh as the criticism I've dished out for myself.
Try listening to this show. Susan, the hypocrisy of that comment that got my viewers and listeners straight away this morning is, what about the 8-year-old British white girls north of Watford Gap whose lives were destroyed by the grooming gangs that we know dreadful?
And where's that inquiry, Jeremy? Where is that inquiry? And apparently now it will take 3 years, so the results will come in after the general election. Why do they all want to cover it up? Sadik Khan, as you know, pretended he didn't know what I was talking about when I asked him about it over a year ago. I've asked for a London inquiry. Well, I will be chairing the Police and Crime Committee after the May elections. And the first thing we're looking at is grooming gangs in London.
Good. When you asked him, just give me a minute, because I watched that clip repeatedly and I could see the anger rising in you. When you looked at Sadik Khan and said, can you say if there are grooming gangs, rape gangs in London? He literally, and it almost like Starmer at PMQs, just said, I don't understand your question. They're lying.
Yes, Jeremy, they are. They are. I've never known anything like it. It's a Labour thing. If you actually watch the goings-on at City Hall, the Mayor's question time, you will see that the Labour members more or less say to him, Mr. Khan, Mr. Mayor, can you tell me how you are today? And then he says, oh yes, and then he answers a question. The Mayor's office give them the questions, and then they come out with all the answers. And then, of course, when we ask questions, they won't give proper answers, and he goes on, knowing we're on a clock. So very many people say to me, why didn't you follow up with this and that? It's because we don't have the time. We have about 5 minutes once a month. And you can't get to the nub of things because he will never do a yes or no. He just rambles on and uses up your time. It's not democracy. Londoners must be so cross. Well, I should think people all around the country are cross. And if this is true, then he'll have to stand down as mayor because he's making a pig's ear of it anyway.
Couldn't agree more, Susan. You've got to keep the fight going, and I mean that with the greatest respect. Watching you in action, trying to hold his feet to the fire. I mean, it's extraordinary the way they try and get away from it, both he and Starmer. But yeah, listen, thank you. And I know we shocked and got you on early, but thank you so much indeed. Susan Hall, leader of the Conservative group in the London Assembly. Matt, our next Prime Minister, Sadik Khan. That's the plan. I'm leaving I can tell you if he becomes Prime Minister, I'm done. Jezzalag, Chris from Wallasey. It confirms that Starmer knows he's toast after the May election, so he's making Khan a lord as his parting gift. Bye-bye, Starmer. Don't let the door hit you and your wooden face on the way out. Morning, Jez. Khan becoming a lord. Think about it. Which voting demographic do you think this ridiculous idea is aimed at? Do you think Starmer is thinking about Khan or as lord to get back at Trump? You see, MK, I had that thought. Morning, JK. If Starmer's makes Khan a lord, I reckon Britain will erupt. That's Jules in Portsmouth. Sean's in Bridlington, which is where me and Rowley are going. Just when we thought Starmer and Labour couldn't possibly hate the UK anymore, they decided to do this. Morning, dear. Honestly, I've never known so many angry people. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Jane.
Morning, JK. I have no idea how that man in number 10, I can't even say his name anymore, can even consider Sadik Khan becoming a lord, getting in the cabinet. Oh my God. Last night he's saying, I feel sorry for the girls and the kids and I've spent my life protecting them. And then he puts that monster in the cabinet who denies that there's any rape gangs in London. The man needs sectioning.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
20 to 10, it's just gone absolutely ballistically mad here. Morning, Jez. Top programme. I watch and get enraged regularly about the state of this country. NATO, the illegal boat people, crime, the NHS. Most of our problems, to me, it seems self-inflicted. How weak was Beth Rigby from Sky giving Weasel Starmer such an easy ride? He left the door wide open with his, I've always fought for women and girls, but not for rape gang inquiries. Absolutely. Jez, it's about time we should rename Prime Minister's questions to Prime Minister's deflections. Sam in Manchester, do you still have the lie detector? Morning, Jezza. What's the point of talking about defence when the same shower of pointless politicians are deliberately letting millions of illegals in through the back door? We're being run by complete incompetence. The anger, I have to say, about the news that we broke an hour ago that Sadik Khan, the incompetent mayor of London, the Financial Times is reporting, is going to be made a Lord. He's also expected to offer the London mayor a cabinet role. Honestly, I've already said that if he becomes a cabinet minister and a lord, I'm going to go and take up deck chairs and ice creams on the south coast. Here's a lady. I'm delighted to get her on because I want to know her reaction. She has already announced that she's Reform's UK mayoral candidate in London. The wonderful Layla Cunningham. Good morning, Layla.
Hi, how are you, Jeremy?
Well, I'm sort of, you know me. I'm a little bit. It's been a weird day because obviously, I mean, we'll talk about everything, but let's go straight to the main news. And this has not been denied by Downing Street or the mayoral office. He could become a lord. Right, I'm going to give you both scenarios, right? And be given a cabinet post. So our initial theory was, I'm being straight, he's buying. Out of fear of the Greens, he's buying popularity amongst the Muslim vote. But Susan Hall, who leads the Conservatives in the Assembly, just said, interestingly, it could be quite clever by Starmer, because if you're a Lord, you can't become Prime Minister because you're not an MP. I'd love your take on this.
Oh, I don't know. You know, I read an amazing stat that Keir Starmer has appointed more people to the House of Lords than the last 4 prime ministers. This is a man who came into office saying he's going to abolish the House of Lords. Perhaps Sadik Khan is running scared and wants a way out. You know, he doesn't want to run.
I think he wants to be Prime Minister, Layla.
Well, I don't know. I don't know the rules. If you're not in the House of Lords.
No, you can't be Prime Minister in the House of Lords, and I can't. Could he win a seat in London?
He wants
do you
to
think?
Be king.
What?
You know, he feels he's the Emperor of London.
Yeah.
And you know, he'll only give it up if he feels he can be the Emperor of a bigger region. That's how entitled this man is to power.
It's extraordinary. Susan Hall was just telling me that in the last mayoral election, they were allowed to ask, each candidate was allowed to ask each other questions, and his question to her was, if you win, can I keep my security cars?
Did he? I don't remember that question. That's a strange question. I don't see Khan asking that question. It's kind of demeaning to him.
Do you, I mean, just for people watching and listening, right, and you make no secret of your contempt for him, can you understand the depth of anger I'm getting just at the thought of him being given this hereditary, in effect, old-fashioned empire-related award for something that he hates Britain, he hates everything that we were and everything we did. He doesn't agree with the House of Lords. He's a hypocrite. But the thought of this man being even closer to the seat of power is just turning people's stomachs.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that you almost feel, and this is irrelevant of Khan, but I'll get to him. You almost feel that the House of Lords has become a consolation prize, you know, and it should be experts. It should be people who are successful. Yet, you know, you feel
not
like
a rest home for failure or political favour, right?
You feel like in government you fail upwards. You know, so he's going to go from City Hall to the House of Lords, and after years of rising crime, massive falling trust, Londoners are basically told the answer is to send Sadik Khan to the House of Lords, so he can watch over them for life.
But maybe, from your point of view, if he goes to the House of Lords, presumably he'd have to give up being London mayor. This could be a good thing for you.
It could be a good thing for London, not for me, and for me obviously. But so I think he can be both. unless he's appointed to the cabinet.
God, this is a really interesting one. But more than anything, if you go back to it, this is definitely Starmer playing games. I want to talk about, have you seen Starmer's interview with Beth Rigby?
Oh, yeah. I mean, not all of it. It's hard to watch all of it. I saw the clips.
You're a woman. You fought for women's rights. To me, the thing that sent my lot over the edge this morning is the temerity and the brass neck of a man to sit there and go, I've made mistakes and all I've ever done all of my life is to be caring about women. What about the National Rape Gang inquiry? What about your inability to answer Susan? Or when she said, will you confirm there are rape gangs in London? It's absolutely duplicitous.
Massive. Number one, I actually find it beyond insulting. This is the man who appointed Mandelson, who is best friends with one of the most prolific sex offenders, underage girls in my lifetime. That is a completely disrespectful to all the victims of Epstein, because he kind of said, you know what, I know where you were his mate, I'm going to overlook it. I'm going to overlook it, which means it's kind of okay. And second of all, that it was under Starmer that all those pedo-asbos were given to people who were committing, grooming gang activities with young girls. They were literally given warning notices, and those warning notices should only be used for minor nuisances. But they were used to warn men who were conducting child sexual exploitation on young girls, and that was under him. And they tried to deny it, number 10. But
I've told you before, when I interviewed a high-ranking police officer from up north 2 years ago, and he said to me, yeah, the reason we've rather slowly looked at how this should work, this is because we don't want to upset certain groups in the community. It's a bit rich to me for him to make a play about being a protector of women when he steadfastly refuses to accept that 83% of the rapes against white English girls in the north, fact, not a comment that's anything other than based on fact, was committed by British Pakistani men. We're now looking at a political situation. Ben Habib said something just now which is fascinating to me. In the old days, to win an election, you needed to get the votes, I always used to say, between Watford Gap and Birmingham, Middle England. OK, that was, the south was blue, the north of Watford Gap, where the north of sort of Birmingham was red, and it was that. And Margaret Thatcher managed to get the Midlands and say to them, you can buy your own council houses, we'll do all of those sorts of things. Ben Habib said, you can see a situation in 10, 15 years whereby the most prevalent group that people need to get on side is the Muslim vote.
100%. And not only the Muslim group, Jeremy, you could be looking at a group of Islamists who control. I mean, one could say that perhaps the Greens have been hijacked by the Islamists, and in London they're polling very, very high. We have to be very, very careful about who we vote in this election for London and in the general election. We cannot have sectarian voting. We cannot have people running for office that run on a platform for Gaza or a platform for Muslims.
But they will.
Yeah, and all I'm telling people is, do not let it. Make sure you go out and vote, and make sure you stop it. We can only beat this together, and we can only beat this. For instance, in local elections and in the mayoral, only 40% turnout rates.
Why is that, do you think? That must frustrate you as a politician so much.
It does. And I go speaking to so many people in London, and they literally say, what's the point? They're like, I vote Labour, I vote Conservative, it's the same. And that's what you have. You have a cosy consensus that's run London forever. One party complains, the other one wins, but it's the same trajectory. It's the same rise in crime. It's the same massive regulation that stops housing being built. It's the same lack of policing. It's the same massive demographic change because refugees go to the top of the housing list. It's the same, Westminster Council declaring itself a sanctuary borough for refugees. It's the same trajectory, and that's why people are like, what's the point?
But the apathy, maybe I'm idealistic. The apathy is why we're at where we're at. I don't care your political persuasion. Surely you should go and use your vote so that you can look yourself in the mirror and go, I didn't vote for this government, but they won fair and square. But at least I put my name in the hat, and at least I know where I stand. Can I ask you a very serious question? If you were Mayor of London today, and I rang you up from Labour Party Central Office, would you dredge the entirety of the Thames so I could find McSweeney's phone?
I mean, what a story,
mate.
I mean, they actually take us for fools. Number one, he gives the wrong street.
Oh, did you know that, by the way, Belgrave Street's not in Pimlico, it's in Tower Hamlets?
Yeah, and then I think I read the actual call conversation to 999, and he confirms like he says, and then the person says it's in Stepney Green, and he goes, yeah, that's where he turned around, and I mean, honestly,
when you walk down the street, you'll love this. You'll love this because I'm walking down the street in London, somewhere in Stepney, and I've got my personal mobile in one hand, and I've got my government phone in the other. And sadly, it was the government one that was nicked. But what was even more sad was that the one they didn't nick, that had the tracker on and that had my WhatsApp messages, but the government one. But then I panicked a little bit and I phoned the police, but I didn't tell them that, I'm the second most powerful person in the United Kingdom with the security information. I didn't think I should mention that. And then I got the address wrong because I was, very upset, possibly drunk. I've got absolutely no idea and it's gone. But did you hear this morning, to make this even more dodgy, Mandelson, Layla, was not even asked to hand over his phone to get the messages that he'd have received or sent to Thingy. This is, people go to me, oh, are you getting a bit conspiratorial? No, this is a cover-up. This is a cover-up. 1,000,000%.
The most senior Downing Street operator loses a phone and somehow Number 10 treated it like a lost Oyster card. That he didn't even treat it as a he should have told them it's got sensitive information. And it's either a cover-up, Jeremy, or it's a serious problem with how this government handles security. Either way, it's a disaster.
Do you believe the phone was nicked, Layla Cunningham?
As a personal thing, no, I don't, because it's very, very convenient. The fact that they didn't address it as sensitive, he didn't declare how sensitive the phone is. I think it was a month. They knew already Mandelson was
they knew that it's really interesting with Dan Hodges from the Mail is doing literally just incredible work with Guy Adams. He did a timeline for me yesterday on the show, and it was 7 days after the inquiry was announced that the phone went missing. We can't point the finger. And apparently an inside source told him there was blind panic in that month of the recess in September, October, as to what would happen if those came out. But whatever the rights and wrongs, and I keep saying it has more holes than a Swiss cheese, this, and it does, the rights and wrongs is the incompetent belief, this is my thing, that the British public, the London public, the whatever, are going to swallow this anymore, because they won't. They see right through this. I watched him in Helsinki yesterday. He blinks, he looks even he doesn't convince anybody, and that leads you to think how rotten to the core is this government. That's a fact.
It's a fundamental disrespect for people that really grates us. Conveniently, the phone that contained politically sensitive messages suddenly disappears, and if we ask questions, we're told, it's a conspiracy theory, don't be ridiculous. I don't know if you read also in the Times or the Telegraph that the Home Office somehow lost 60% of the documents relating to the grooming gangs.
Yes, I did read that. Yeah.
You're like, do they really take us for fools? They just lose stuff.
Let's not forget that this was the Prime Minister who stood up 3 weeks ago and nearly lost his job because he said to the entire Parliament, I will decide what messages, emails and correspondence relevant to the Peter Mandelson inquiry will I give to the police. And even his own backbenchers went, hold on a minute, it's not for you. And he got humiliated. Look at him there, picture of his head in his hands. But you know what's frightening, later, before we finish? And this is another thing that people say to me every single day. The alternatives, I'd love him to stay for 3 years because every day there's a bloody headline, but the alternatives are even more scary. Yet this week he actually said, it's not up to me whether we drill in the North Sea, it's up to the energy secretary. Who is running the government?
I know. The thing is, he's not leading, is he? He's managing.
No. It's extraordinary.
He's managing his party and he's not leading. And
when you are out and about in London today, if you find the phone, will you call me? Because we need to return that to Morgan McSweeney.
This is one of the rare crimes where the victim benefits more than the criminal. Mm-hmm. One could say. That
was very clever, Cunningham. Thank you so much indeed. Great response to the Sadik Khan story. Layla Cunningham reforms UK mayoral candidate in London. We're not quite sure the rules, but if this Financial Times story is true and Keir Starmer made Sadik Khan a Lord, he'd go to the Lords. He can stay as mayor, but if he's made a cabinet minister, he can't stay as mayor. And also he can't stand for Prime Minister as a Lord. He'd have to be an MP. So you could suggest this is really clever of Keir Starmer, but there hasn't been anything in my experience of doing this job that leads me to think there's anything clever about Keir Starmer. Morning, Kelvin.
Good morning, Jeremy. Giving Sadik Khan a cabinet role, I wouldn't even give him a sausage roll. Are you sure this is not a smokescreen for something else that's coming up that he's trying to get away with? There's got to be another scam coming somewhere. And as for beating himself up, please invite me around your house, Starmer. I'll beat you up right good and proper. Bye.
Breaking news on Talk Breakfast. Two men, aged 47 and 45, have in the last hour been arrested in connection with the Golders Green arson attack. To me, symbolising absolutely a rise in anti-Semitism. Again, nothing from the government.
Breaking news. It's just a small matter. They have just an announcement saying transgender girls, i.e. boys, they must leave girl guiding by this September the 6th.
We are buying from Norway because they fully exploit their share of the North Sea oil and gas fields, and we don't. Alice in Wonderland nuts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the point of the show where I have to be this is terribly brilliant news. Astonishing. We're giving you the chance to win a life-changing £20,000. Life-changing money, completely tax-free. Thank you to Talk. 20 grand. All you got to do, straight into your bank account. You can spend it, save it, splash it. You can fill your car up 3 times in 1 week. Be absolutely great. This is how you can win £20,000 from Talk.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 9th of April 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Great opportunity to win £20,000. Voiceover man. That's a brilliant opportunity. We say a very good morning to, somebody who always puts me in my place, who I know is delighted that Keir Starmer's going to make Sadik Khan a Lord. Alex Phillips, how are you?
I'm good. Do you know why I am delighted?
To sit here with me.
Oh, absolutely, always. You know you're my favourite.
You say that to all the boys.
No, I don't.
Really? Why am I your favourite?
Because you're funny and you.
Funny and you. Get you through the glass. Old man still got it, baby.
We're not
allowed to hang out together on things like Plank of the Week anymore, are we?
I don't have time to do that.
Oh, really?
Busy
I don't
mean to be
busy breakfast boy.
Well, not just that, lots of other things going on. But listen, honestly, tell me, Lord Khan.
Do you know what I think's going on? This is where I would actually celebrate this a little bit, cautiously, because look at what's going to happen in May. Local council elections that the Labour Party thought they had cancelled. We're going to see a number of boroughs in London switch to the Greens. And you know what that means? Sadik Khan ain't necessarily going to walk it next time as London Mayor. So I think they're preparing to put him out to pasture when he loses.
Could be, right, we sort of it two ways, right? Him, Starmer, doing what anybody with a brain would do and going, I'm losing the Muslim vote, I need to do that. That's the first thing. Second thing is, which Susan Hall said, which is really important, in the Lords, right, in the Cabinet, can't be Prime Minister in the Lords. It